subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
He admitted that he had lost to Knight God Ryosuke. Iwa, you have won. Knight God Ryosuke immediately let go of his hand and took 2 steps back. Since when have you been fighting me with Shadow Clone? Tengu turned around and couldn't help asking. It was from the beginning. Yagami Ryosuke said. FK, then didn't I fight the real Knight God Ryosuke from the beginning to the end? Tengu's mouth became even more bitter. It feels like eating bitter melon. Uncomfortable. At this time, Shadow and Black Fong also walked over. Heya laughed and patted Tengu on the shoulder and said, "What's wrong? Was it hit?" Hearing this, because the dog slapped the black teeth away angrily. How is it possible? At worst, I'll just win it back next time, Tengu said stiffly. Hearing this, Heifong shook his head secretly. Tengu and Ying didn't know, but he knew very well that Yue in front of him was just a child who had just graduated from ninja school. At only 12 years old, he was already able to easily defeat Umbu Chnin. This is if you give him a few more years. Isn't chopping Jnin as easy as chopping melons and vegetables? No wonder Master Hokage would take this kid so seriously. Sure enough, Hokage-sama's vision is not comparable to ordinary ninjas like them. Tengu wants to surpass Knight God Ryosuke. Black Fong felt that it was impossible to complete. After sparring with Tengu, Yagami Ryosuke obviously felt that the eyes of his 3 teammates had changed, and their attitudes were much closer than before. Obviously, he has really approved his joining. Black Fong, where's our captain? Why didn't you see him? Knight God Ryosuke asked at this time. You said the captain is off today. Black Fong said. What is our Umbu job like? I don't know about these either. Knight God Ryosuke asked. Let me explain this. Tengu volunteered to stand up, and then took Yagami Ryosuke to the side and explained to him the content of their Umbu's work. Black Fong and Shadow, who stayed in place, also started today's training. Umbu, when there is no mission, basically spends it in training. The other side, Tengu was also explaining their Umbu workflow to Knight God Ryosuke. Our Umbu's working hours are actually quite free. When there is no task, the time is up to you to arrange. But once there is a task, if you receive a summoning order, you have to rush to gather immediately. Tengu said, as for the usual rest days, each shift takes turns in turn, and each shift takes 2 shifts. I, Umbu, have a total of 16 shifts, that is, I take an 8-day shift. Today was supposed to be a day off for our 7th and 8th shifts. As you can see, the captain didn't come. However, for the rest of us, there is nothing to do when we rest, so we usually come to the training ground to practice. Our training ground in Umbu is separated from the outside world. Each class has its own training ground, and there is also a large training ground, which is the forest behind. If you have requirements for the environment of cultivation, you can go to the big training ground. There are usually many colleagues practicing there, as long as you don't disturb others. Tengu talks a lot and densely, but he explained Umbu's work to Knight God Ryosuke in great detail. Almost every detail is covered. I'm afraid that Knight God Ryosuke didn't remember it, so I plan to say it again. Knight God Ryosuke didn't even say it. You really remember? Tengu still has some unfinished looks. Already remembered. Then I can go now, right? Yagami Ryosuke said. Yes, today we take turns off. If you have something to do, just leave. Tengu nodded and said, on a rest day, unless there's really nothing to do, who would come to work? After saying hello to Black Fong and Shadow in the past, Knight God Ryosuke left Umbu directly. Wearing Umbu's uniform, Yagami Ryosuke drove all the way with the body flicker technique and soon returned home. Mother Yagami Mizuki is not at home. She should be working at Konoha Hospital right now. Yagami Ryosuke went back to his room and changed his clothes before going out. At the moment, Hinata and Ino are still performing tasks with the team, and Knight God Ryosuke didn't bother. He came to the village training ground. The 3 people who were still in the 7th class were found. It is also the 7th class, but Yi Shunliang joined Umbu's 7th class. It feels quite destined. But this is estimated to be deliberately arranged by Sarutobi Hiruzen. Among the three of the former Black Fang, there should be Sarutobi Hiruzen's confidant. Maybe one of them is a ninja from the Sarutobi clan. After all, compared with outsiders, Sarutobi Hiruzen is obviously more willing to trust his own family members. Naruto, Sasuke, little Sakura, Knight, God Ryosuke stepped in front of the three of them and greeted them. Ryosuke. Naruto, who was doing push-ups, instantly jumped up. Ryosuke, why are you here? He asked. Sasuke and little Sakura on the side also looked at Knight, God Ryosuke. I'll come and see you. I heard that the only difference is that your 7th class has not yet been formally established. Yagami Ryosuke said. Hearing this, a member of Class 7's face suddenly collapsed. Don't mention it. Mr. Kakashi is a late king. He was late yesterday, but today he said he would meet at 5 o'clock in the morning, but he hasn't arrived yet. Naruto couldn't help complaining. Since you know that Kakashi is the late king, why are you here on time? Knight God Ryosuke looked at Naruto with strange eyes and asked, I was thinking that I could cultivate Chuan, by the way. Naruto was stunned for a moment, and then he opened his mouth to argue. Yagami Ryosuke chuckled, not believing it all. This guy must be worried about being beaten back by Kakashi and repeating. After all, the Knight God Ryosuke told him about Kakashi's deeds before, and I'm afraid it scared Naruto a little. Yes, still. Naruto suddenly pulled Knight God Ryosuke to the side. What's the matter, Naruto? Knight God Ryosuke looked at his mysterious look and asked curiously. I have a present for you. As Naruto said, he also took out a scroll from his clothes and stuffed it to Knight God Ryosuke. Hurry up and hide, don't be seen. Naruto said hastily. Knight God Ryosuke didn't know why Naruto was so afraid of being seen, but he still put the scroll away. What's in the scroll? Knight God Ryosuke asked him. A ninjutsu. Naruto whispered. Ryosuke, don't tell others. Grandpa 3rd generation forbids me to tell others. Sarutobi Hiruzen? Knight God Ryosuke seems to know what's in that scroll. Can't help but look at Naruto in surprise. Unexpectedly, Sarutobi Hiruzen sent the multiple shadow clone technique to Naruto again. However, Naruto turned around and gave it to himself? Knight God Ryosuke can imagine that Sarutobi Hiruzen must have told Naruto not to spread the word. But Naruto obviously didn't intend to obediently do as he was told. Chapter 65. The Assessment of the 7th Class. Susanoo versus Kakashi. 9th change. Sasuke. What are you talking about when Naruto dragged Ryosuke over? At this time, little Sakura leaned over to Sasuke, wanting to have an excuse to chat with him. As for what Naruto was pulling Ryosuke over, she didn't really care. I'm not Naruto, I don't know, Sasuke said coldly. Glancing at the two people over there, Sasuke was inexplicably a little bit PD. It's as if my girlfriend is flirting with other men in front of me. At this time, Naruto and Knight God Ryosuke are also back. When is Kakashi-sensei coming? It's almost noon. Naruto sat down next to Sasuke and complained. Sasuke, are you hungry? Sasuke snorted coldly, turned his head and said, I'm not like you. I know how to eat like a rice bucket. I'm not hungry at all. As a result, as soon as he finished speaking, his stomach started growling. The atmosphere was very awkward for a while. Sasuke couldn't help but blush. He secretly scolded himself for not being able to live up to his stomach. And when he couldn't scream, he screamed when he had just finished speaking. Haha, Sasuke, your stomach is growling. Are you hungry? Naruto pointed at Sasuke's stomach and laughed. Naruto, don't bother Sasuke all the time. Little Sakura couldn't stand it anymore and went to help Sasuke out. Little Sakura, are you hungry? Naruto sneaked out a few small rice balls. I brought a few small rice balls. Do you want to eat? Ryosuke, do you eat? Knight God Ryosuke shook his head. No, I ate a lot for breakfast, and I'm not hungry yet. Little Sakura, do you want to eat? Naruto leaned in front of little Sakura, dangling a few small rice balls in front of her, like offering treasures. Little Sakura didn't want to eat at first, but her stomach didn't live up to it. She hasn't gotten up since 5 o'clock in the morning, and she hasn't eaten anything until now. Now smell the aroma of these small rice balls. Hooked out the glutton in her stomach directly. I eat. Little Sakura snatched the box containing the small rice balls and was about to pick one up and stuff it in her mouth when a shuriken flew over and knocked out the box in her hand. Brush! A figure flashed like a ghost, caught the box containing the small rice balls, and landed on the stump beside it. There are enemies. Little Sakura was taken aback, but when she looked up, she found that it was Kakashi who was half a day late. Ms. Kakashi. The three immediately got up from the ground. Stupid, did I tell you not to eat breakfast yesterday? Kakashi held the box in his hand, staring at the three little ghosts indifferently. Yo, Kakashi. 1-inch Knight, God Ryosuke, raised his hand to greet him. Kakashi glanced at him helplessly. I said, "Why are you here too?" he asked. Hey, our team is resting today, so I'll come and see Naruto and the others. Yagami Ryosuke said with a smile. Team rest. Kakashi nodded. Apparently, he also heard about Knight God Ryosuke joining Umbu when Sarutobi Hiruzen. In fact, word of the matter has spread among a small number of Jonin circles. It is rumored that the chief student graduating this year is a very powerful civilian genius who has been valued by 3rd Hokage, and he is also authorized to join Umbu as a genin. The entire Umbu is probably only the genin of the Knight God Ryosuke. Even in the history of Umbu, he was the first genin to join. It can be said to be a record. Okay, then just watch from the sidelines, don't interfere, and don't talk. Kakashi stared lightly at Knight Ryosuke and said, It wasn't until Knight God Ryosuke nodded that he looked away and looked at Naruto and the three of them. You three, don't you think that you could become a genin after passing the graduation exam? Tell you guys, if you can't pass my test today, I, as the guide genin, can just send you all back to the 6th grade for 10 years. So, do you still want these things now? He shook the box containing the small rice balls in his hand. Little Sakura turned pale with fright and shook her head quickly. Mr. Kakashi, we already know this, so hurry up and tell me what the test is. Naruto didn't know what it meant to look scared, Ian said. Kakashi looked at the teacher's son speechlessly. I thought to myself, although Naruto has the same blonde hair as the teacher, but his personality is more like a teacher's wife, bluffing and impatient. On the other hand, Sasuke stood there quietly and looked at him without saying a word the whole time, but his eyes were firmer than anyone else's. It seems that you can't wait, so the test starts now. As he spoke, Kakashi suddenly took out a word and put it aside. It's 10:50 in the morning. From now until 1:53 hours later, you have 3 hours to take these 2 bells from me. Clang! Kakashi shook the 2 small bells in his hand and put them on his belt. But why are there only 2 bells? Little Sakura raised her hand and asked. Good question, but you're no longer students of ninja school, so you don't need to raise your hands when you ask questions in the future. Kakashi glanced at little Sakura and said lightly. These words made little Sakura's face even more ugly, and she even trembled with fright. It feels like I've been eliminated. Why are there only 2 bells? Because at least one of the 3 of you is doomed to be eliminated. You can only do your best with the determination to kill me, to snatch the 2 bells from my hand. Otherwise, eliminate all. As soon as these words came out, even Naruto, who was fearless just now, became a little nervous. And Sasuke has already clenched his fists, vowing to himself that he must get one of the bells. He doesn't want to go back to ninja school and play ninja games with a bunch of kids. Kakashi looked at the expressions on the faces of the 3 of them and was very satisfied with the expressions of Naruto and Sasuke. And when he saw the little Sakura, who was trembling with nervousness, he shook his head. Secretly, this team is mainly Naruto and Sasuke. One of them is the 9 Tails Jinchuriki, and the other is the last descendant of Uchiha. As for Haruno Sakura, that's just a condiment. Moreover, the genin team has always been divided into groups of 2 men and 1 woman, plus Naruto likes little Sakura, and little Sakura likes Sasuke. That's why she was assigned to the 7th class. Kakashi doesn't expect much from little Sakura, but Naruto and Sasuke. He still wanted to see how they behaved later. Has it started yet? Knight God Ryosuke stood on a high tree one by one, looking at the 4 people in the open space ahead. After Kakashi announced the start of the test, Naruto and the three of them immediately hid themselves. Naruto has also learned to use his brain, not bad. Yagami Ryosuke nodded in relief. It can be said that Naruto's changes today are all caused by him. If it weren't for his good tongue, to convince Naruto, let him stop doing those pranks and spend his time on practice. I'm afraid he will inevitably be hit by Kakashi's 1,000 years of death today. The taste is sour and refreshing just thinking about it. Coming, Yagami Ryosuke suddenly narrowed his eyes. I saw Kakashi standing in the open space, suddenly turn around to avoid it. Bang, bang, bang. A series of shurikens were nailed to the ground. The landing point is exactly where Kakashi was just now. Ms. Kakashi, hand over the bell. Naruto's figure appeared in midair. He yelled and punched and attacked, and he shot a dozen times in the blink of an eye, but he didn't hit Kakashi once. Yagami Ryosuke, can I take back what I just said? Physical skills are good, but not enough. Kakashi blocked Naruto's unexpected blow with one hand, and then threw him away with a backhand. Naruto made seals with his hands in midair and instantly cast multiple shadow clone techniques, separating 40 or 50 shadow clones. So many clones! The little Sakura, who was hiding in the dark, couldn't help but widen her eyes in surprise. At this time, Sasuke, who was hiding on the other side, was waiting for an opportunity to make an ordinary shot. It's now. Sasuke suddenly dodges and disappears in place. In the clearing, Kakashi, who was dealing with dozens of Naruto's shadow clone, suddenly caught a glimpse of a blue figure appearing behind him on the right. Ask, 4 flowers. Is it Sasuke? The timing is good. Kakashi secretly nodded at the timing of Sasuke's shot. Fire style. Great fireball technique. Unexpectedly, Sasuke opened his mouth and sprayed out a huge great fireball with a diameter of more than 2 meters. Boom! The fireball slammed in the ground in front of Kakashi, causing a violent explosion. At the same time, a shadow clone of Sasuke is also waiting for an opportunity to grab the 2 bells on Kakashi's waist. Successful! A look of joy flashed in Sasuke's eyes. But in the next second boom, a figure smashed over, instantly smashing Sasuke's shadow clone. Naruto, what are you doing? Sasuke yelled at Naruto angrily. The figure who just smashed a shadow clone was Naruto. Naruto, who covered his head and got up from the ground, heard Sasuke's angry roar, smiled awkwardly, and said, Sasuke is sorry, but I can't control my body. Sasuke, now is not the time for you to chat. At this time, a voice appeared behind Sasuke. Without giving him a chance to react, Kakashi threw Sasuke to the ground instantly. He held the little yellow book in one hand, pressed one leg on Sasuke's back, and clasped Sasuke's hands behind his back with the other hand. Yo, isn't this Sasuke? Kakashi said meanly. Hateful. Sasuke cursed angrily. At this time, Naruto rushed up, although he failed to cause any substantial damage to Kakashi, but rescued Sasuke, who was caught. Sasuke, are you okay? Naruto asked back. Fine. Sasuke twisted his wrist, followed by staring at Kakashi with fierce eyes. Is this the difference between me and elite Genin? Damn, I've obviously been cultivating so hard. Sasuke clenched his fist, secretly feeling unwilling. Sasuke, let's fight together. It seems that we can't fight alone. Naruto said to Sasuke. Okay, let's go together. Sasuke nodded, also agreeing to Naruto's proposal. At this time, it is not the time to be impulsive. The key is to grab the bell first and then talk. Naruto's taijutsu is good, but Kakashi didn't release the water, thinking he would give them a chance on purpose. Oh, I was cheated, but it's normal. Strange. Why does little Sakura stay there all the time? Night, God Ryosuke's eyes fell on the woods over there. At this time, Sasuke and Naruto have teamed up to face Kakashi, and the 3 of them are very stalemate. But in fact, Kakashi is not really serious. However, with the cooperation of the 2, at least Kakashi put away his beloved little PN book. Start using 2 hands to deal with Sasuke's and Naruto's attacks. While on the other side, little Sakura has been hiding in that place and has no intention of going up to help. Yagami Ryosuke thought for a while and probably understood what little Sakura was thinking at this time. Do you feel that you can't help? and going up will only hinder you. Yagami Ryosuke thought to himself. Pity, Kakashi obviously didn't intend to let the little Sakura, who was fishing. Night God Ryosuke noticed that one of his shadow clone had touched it, and at this time it had come behind little Sakura. Next second, a scream frightened a group of birds in the distance to flap their wings and fly high. And Sasuke and Naruto, who were teaming up to deal with Kakashi, also realized that something happened to little Sakura. It's over. Night God Ryosuke shook his head. Obviously, the first test, Naruto, they failed. Didn't grab the bell, and one teammate was reduced. Really? It didn't take long for Kakashi to deal with Naruto and Sasuke. Both were tied to stakes. Brush. Night God Ryosuke dodges past. Kakashi glanced at him, ignored him, and continued to teach the 3 students in front of him. After Kakashi finished his education, he announced that he would give them another chance in the afternoon, and then disappeared in place. Chapter 66. Multiple Shadow Clone Technique. Danzo loses face. 10th update, you guys are so embarrassed. Night God Ryosuke smiled and looked at the 3 people who were tied to the stake. Ryosuke, hurry up and help loosen the rope. Naruto struggled and shouted. Yagami Ryosuke smiled and immediately drew his sword and cut off the ropes on the 3 of them, getting rid of the shackles. The 3 also fell back to the ground. You should still think about how to pass the assessment in the afternoon, but I suggest that you can make a plan and cooperate together when the time comes to have a glimmer of hope. Night God Ryosuke said to the 3 of them. Ryosuke is right. Only 3 of us can cooperate to snatch the bell from Mr. Kakashi. Naruto nodded in agreement with Night God Ryosuke's statement, and then looked at Sakura-chan and Sasuke. Little Sakura, Sasuke, let's plan how to cooperate with the assessment in the afternoon, he said. Hearing this, Sasuke glanced at the little Sakura beside him, thought about it, and nodded. But Little Sakura seemed a little hesitant, worried that if she helped, it would be a hindrance. Come on, little Sakura, we're on the same team, aren't we? Naruto looked at little Sakura and invited. After speaking, he secretly kicked Sasuke next to him. Sasuke glanced at him and said, Come together, we can help a little bit. Really? Little Sakura looked at Sasuke with bright eyes. Can I really help Sasuke? Naruto, run, looking at the 3 of them. Yagami Ryosuke also smiled. Then you guys discuss it here. I'm going to have lunch. April 20th, he said. 3 people. No, we haven't even had breakfast yet. So we're not hungry now. Do you want barbecue at noon? Or ramen? Hey, it's so hard to choose. Night God Ryosuke murmured to himself loudly on purpose, and then disappeared in the same place in an instant. Shwa, count you running fast. The 3 of them stared viciously, while stroking their dry, flat stomachs, making grunting noises like thunder. Night God Ryosuke did not go to watch the second assessment of the 7th class in the afternoon. At noon, he found the 8th class who was going to eat. Then he sneaked in cheekily. After lunch, the 8th shift will continue with the task in the afternoon. It was also inconvenient for Yishan Ryosuke to go with him, so he simply went to the No. 4 training ground to continue his practice. In the depths of the number 4 training ground, Night God Ryosuke first dispersed the 15 shadow clones that he had dispersed, with the influx of a large number of training memories. Night God Ryosuke also rubbed his temples, and it took 2 or 3 seconds before he recovered. Multiple shadow clone technique, boom. A cloud of smoke dispersed. Night God Ryosuke looked at the hundreds of shadow clone around him and nodded with satisfaction. Go to practice separately. He took out the scroll of flying thunder god technique, handed it to a shadow clone, and asked him to take another 19 shadow clone, a total of 20, to study this ninjutsu. And other shadow clone also have their own tasks. Soon it was all scattered. Ryosuke, the night god who left one person, also took out a hair from the biopheromone warehouse. System, transform this hair on my hand. Night god Ryosuke meditated. Next second, the black hair on his hand disappeared instantly. At the same time, a system notification sounded in his mind. Ding! Converted successfully. Congratulations to host for getting the talent entry. Sarutobi Clan Green. The Sarutobi Clan? Sure enough, Tengu is a ninja from the Sarutobi Clan. Night God Ryosuke has an expression of as I expected. Opening the introduction of this talent entry, Yishun Ryosuke also showed a disgusted expression on his face. Sarutobi Clan. Green, you are a ninja of the Sarutobi Clan, and behind you stands the third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. Will of fire plus 50%. That's it. Garbage Sarutobi family. System disassemble. This kind of rubbish talent entry is also an eyesore. Night God Ryosuke directly chose to disintegrate, then get 10 experience points. In fact, the talent entries transformed from Chunin are basically green, and 99.9% are rubbish entries that Night God Ryosuke doesn't like. Basically disassembled directly after getting it. Only the transformed entries on Chunin will be blue. There's a probability that the attributes are good. Will be kept by Night God Ryosuke. But before that, he was still a student of ninja school after all, and the Chunin he had access to was really limited. But now Night God Ryosuke has graduated and joined Umbu. Feel free to get your hands on some Chunin, or even Elite Chunin. In this way, it is also very convenient for Yi Shinjing to obtain more useful talent entries. Instead of rubbish like just now, it only has 10 experience points after dismantling it. Garbage among garbage. It's a pity that I haven't been able to get Sarutobi Hiruzen's biological pheromone in the past 2 days. Otherwise, at least one more purple talent entry can be added. Night God Ryosuke thought it was a pity, but there will be opportunities in the future. No more. By the time of the Chunin exam, Yagami Ryosuke will definitely have a chance to get the biological pheromone from Sarutobi Hiruzen. There's no need to rush to take risks and get it now. However, next time you go out to perform a mission in the village, you can look for an opportunity to get some biological pheromones from the ninjas in the outer village. After all, Konoha is not the only village in the world of Hokage. 5 hidden villages in 5 countries. Although Konoha has a lot of talents, the other villages are not bad either. For example, in Reikage Village, Night God Ryosuke felt that he would be able to transform those reckless men into talent items to improve their physical fitness. Even if other people can't do it, 4th Reikage can't do it either, right? There is also Trumi Mei of Kirigakure, who has 2 kinds of blood succession boundaries, and may be able to transform into talent entries related to these 2 blood succession boundaries. The same is true for Sunegakure's Luosha, especially Rosa. This guy is about to be killed by Orochimaru before the 3rd round of the Chunin exam. Night God Ryosuke must get the biological pheromone from Luosha before this. After all, the system does not recognize the biological pheromones on dead people. Otherwise, Night God Ryosuke would have gone to dig the grave long ago. Or see if I can get some Hashirama cells or something. With the strength of the big pillar, at least 2 golden talent entries can be transformed, right? In the dead body of Uchiha Madara, although I don't know where it is buried. But you can also look for it. Pity. The system only recognizes the biological pheromones of living people, and those of dead people are not counted. But Night God Ryosuke also has an idea. That is the Rinne Tensei technique using impure world reincarnation and Rinnegan. Combining the 2 can directly resurrect the dead. By the time, whether it's Senju Hashirama, Senju Tobarama, or something, as long as the Night God Ryosuke is willing, can be revived anytime. However, if you want to revive Senju Hashirama, at least I have to wait until my strength is similar to his, or I can suppress him. Night God Ryosuke doesn't want to revive Senju Hashirama, but finds that he can't beat the opponent, and then Dejuzi says, I will give you 2 hands. How embarrassing. Hokage office. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who had just reviewed a few documents, was just about to relax, opened the drawer, and took out the crystal ball that he treasured. As a result, at this moment, the door of the office was suddenly pushed open heavily. Hiruzen, Danzo hurried in from the door, only to see Sarutobi Hiruzen looking at him with a livid face and a shattered crystal ball beside him scattered on the ground. Hiruzen, what are you doing? Danzo asked subconsciously. Danzo, Did the old man say that you will knock on the door next time you come in? Sarutobi Hiruzen glared at Danzo angrily, thinking that his beloved crystal ball was smashed by Danzo. An unlucky guy, he was so angry. Hiruzen, don't worry about such small things. Danzo didn't care about Sarutobi Hiruzen's angry eyes at all. Anyway, it wasn't the first time. He has long been used to it. I heard that the kid named Night God Ryosuke has awakened a special physique-like blood successor limit. Hiruzen, hand him over to me. I promise you, I will definitely train him into a man who can make contributions to the village. Danzo's ugly face also showed a look of eager desire. If combined with Hashirama cells, would style comparable to first Hokage be born? It's not like Yamato, who can only do greening. Danzo thinks this possibility is not small. Therefore, after hearing that Ryosuke's blood succession limit is a physique type, I couldn't wait to come to find Sarutobi Hiruzen's important person. Even though he knew that Sarutobi Hiruzen would most likely not hand it over to him. But Danzo wanted to give a try anyway. Give a Night God Ryosuke to you? Sarutobi Hiruzen sneered. Danzo, don't even think about it. Ryosuke is the future of the village, and the old man has already arranged his future path. You're not allowed to interfere in this matter, understand? Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't give Danzo any face at all, directly rejected Danzo's request, and warned him not to mess around. The future of the village? Hiruzen, would you like to hear what you were talking about? Danzo said coldly. A genius like Ryosuke, the night god, should be entrusted to me. Only I can bring out his best use. Enough, Danzo! Sarutobi Hiruzen slapped the table. Night god Ryosuke's matter is not discussed. The old man has already made a decision. You could go down now. Hiruzen. Danzo wanted to say something more, but was interrupted by Sarutobi Hiruzen waving his hand. Go down. Go back to your roots. Also, don't let this old man know that you secretly attacked Night God Ryosuke. Behind my back, Danzo, you should know the consequences of doing this. Hearing Sarutobi Hiruzen's threat, Danzo was also furious. Hiruzen, will you dash? Shut up. This old man will never regret it. With a wave of Sarutobi Hiruzen, several Umbu ninjas appeared in the office instantly. Elder Danzo, please go down and rest, he said coldly. Several Umbu ninjas accepted the order and looked at Danzo indifferently. Elder Danzo, please. Seeing that Sarutobi Hiruzen made such a decisive decision, Danzo also stared at him fiercely with one eye, until after Umbu said please for the second time. He turned and left angrily. When Danzo returned to Jin's headquarters, he became furious and smashed all the things in the room. It was a mess. Only then did I feel that the anger in my heart eased a little. Hiruzen, do you think you can stop this old man? You underestimate me, Shimura Danz. There was a cold glint in Danzo's one eye. Some time ago, Orochimaru had contacted him and said he needed a favor. At that time, Danzo didn't agree immediately, and there was 0.6 hesitation in his heart. But what happened today made Danzo realize that his status in the village is really getting worse and worse than before. In the past, Hiruzen would still be scruples about his thoughts, but since the Uchiha clan was exterminated, Danzo found that Sarutobi Hiruzen's attitude towards him, the degree has changed. Danzo is well aware of this, because the biggest confidant has disappeared. He, who used to be very handy for Sarutobi Hiruzen in the past, is now a bit of an eyesore. But Danzo naively thought that Sarutobi Hiruzen would at least give him a face for the sake of the past. But today, Sarutobi Hiruzen actually asked some Umbu to escort him away from Master Hokage. That's totally throwing Shimura Danz's face on the ground and crushing with his feet. After, who would be afraid of him, Shimura Danz? Who would even consider him, Shimura Danz, as a character? Danzo couldn't bear this tone no matter what. And, thinking about it now, Danzo also realized belatedly that Sarutobi Hiruzen had already started to quietly limit the power in his hands 2 or 3 years ago. Even the roots of his subordinates have not had fresh blood for a long time. If things go on like this, the existence of the roots will only exist in name only. And he, Shimura Danz, will also lose the biggest bargaining chip in his hand. be reduced to the same trash as Mitokado Hamura and Koharu, who have the title of elder but no power. Chapter 67. Pupil Technique Breeding Completed. Night God Ryosuke Susan. 11th change. Is Hiruzen trying to clear the way for Asuma? But hasn't Asuma been given up by him? Danzo thought about it and began to recall some of Sarutobi Hiruzen's words and deeds in the past few years. Finally, he thought a possibility. Yuan Fei Konohamaru? Hiruzen intends to help that brat sit on the position of Hokage. Danzo's eyes widened, never expecting that Sarutobi Hiruzen would have such a long-term plan. How old is Yuan Fei Konohamaru? Just an 8-year-old kid. There are still 10 years until adulthood. Unexpectedly, Sarutobi Hiruzen started planning for his grandson so early. Think of this. Many things that Danzo couldn't understand before have also had reasonable explanations. No wonder Hiruzen has been recruiting those young, civilian ninjas for the past 2 years. I thought he was simply getting old and soft-hearted. I didn't expect that he was building a team for his grandson. Danzo gritted his teeth. Although he doesn't look down on those so-called civilian geniuses at all. His roots had recruited quite a few of these so-called geniuses before, but most of them had limited achievements. Training them is far less cost-effective than those family ninjas. But if Sarutobi Hiruzen is doing all this to build a team for his grandson to use in the future, then Danzo will not be happy. Damn Hiruzen, if you are unkind, don't blame me for being unrighteous. You are better than me in all of this. Danzo cursed viciously and had already decided in his heart to agree to Orochimaru's previous request for cooperation. This time, he wanted to let Sarutobi Hiruzen finish the game completely. Hiruzen, you can rest assured Konoha will be guarded by me. Shimura Dans from now on. Danzo couldn't help laughing out loud as he spoke. I seem to have seen the picture of myself wearing a Hokage hat and sitting on the Hokage seat with the support of the whole village. After imagining a bright future, Danzo also returned to reality. Get rid of this nasty brat first, and teach Hiruzen a lesson. 31 Danzo clapped his hands and summoned his ninjas. Master Danzo! A root ninja then appeared, knelt in front of Danzo, and waited for instructions. Take the root. God has a task for you, Danzo said in a cold tone. Master Danzo, please order. Aburame bowed his head and said, rooted ninjas are absolutely obedient to Danzo, and in their minds, Lord Danzo's orders will always come first. The second is the village and companions. Therefore, they will strictly implement all Danzo's orders, and they will never take advantage of the situation or be lazy. On this point, Umbu is much better. Umbu's management is much looser than Jin's, and they even have rest days, but Jin has never said that they have rest days, and they don't even have wages. Typical slavery management. The point is, these rooted ninjas just don't agree with Danzo. Have to say, Konoha's top executives are all masters of brainwashing. In 2 days, you find an excuse to assign Umbu's 7th class mission out of the village. Remember, your target is a little ghost of the night god Ryosuke. His codename in Umbu is Yu. Kill this little ghost. Bring his body back. The old man is useful. Danzo's idea at the beginning was to get night god Ryosuke from Sarutobi Hiruzen, and then use his usual brainwashing methods to make night god Ryosuke devoted to himself and work for him. But things have changed now. Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't agree with him, and also completely angered Danzo. Danzo knows that he has no chance to brainwash Ryosuke, the night god, and make him an obedient tool for his subordinates. Therefore, Danzo doesn't want the living night god Ryosuke now. As long as he can bring the body back, he can ask his men to study the blood succession limit of night god Ryosuke. Maybe something can be researched, and it is not impossible to use Ryosuke cells to create a clone that is highly compatible with Hashirama's cells. Night god Ryosuke? Understood, Danzo-sama. Aburame took the root and nodded, then disappeared in place. Hiruzen, do you want night god Ryosuke to be your grandson's right-hand man? Oof. I won't let you do that. Danzo stood where he was, smiling coldly. Evening. under the waterfall deep in the number 4 training ground. Yagami Ryosuke is holding a boulder weighing 20 to 30 tons with both hands, squatting on the spot. The ground under his feet was also paved with a stone. More than half of the stone has sunk deep into the ground, and only a quarter of the top is exposed above the ground. Otherwise, with his hands holding such a heavy object, his feet would have already sunk into the ground. Although chakra can be used to assist, what Night God Ryosuke needs to exercise now is pure flesh/body. In this process, he will not use a single bit of chakra in his body. 4,997, 4,998, 5,000. 5,000 squats are done. Night God Ryosuke pushed with both hands, and there was a loud bang, and the boulder in his hand fell directly on the ground next to him, just hitting his sunken place. Perfect fit. This set of actions, Yi Shunliang has obviously performed countless times, so practiced very proficiently. Phew, that's it for today. It's time to go home. He looked at the sky and then made a seal with his hands, and instantly those shadow clone branches around a number 4 training ground all dissipated at the same time. Hiss! The huge amount of information pouring in an instant made Yagami Ryosuke shake uncontrollably, feeling as if his head had been hit by a heavy hammer. After about half a minute, he didn't feel so dizzy anymore. Fortunately, I had the foresight to not directly allocate thousands of shadow clone to practice. Night God Ryosuke thought, with his chakra, it is not a problem at all to separate thousands or even thousands of shadow clone to practice. But Night God Ryosuke considered that with Naruto's physique, he had the Nine Tails cheat and fell asleep the moment he took back the shadow clone. So if it was him, I guess it won't be much better. Therefore, Night God Ryosuke first tried to allocate 100 shadow clones to see how serious the impact of 100 shadow clones would be recovered after a day of practice, and then consider whether to increase the number of shadow clones. Now it seems, thousands are indeed too many, but if there were 100, the mental shock would only make Night God Ryosuke dizzy for half a minute, far from reaching his limit. Tomorrow, I will use 500 shadow clones to practice. If I have 500, I shouldn't just fall asleep right away. Yagami Ryosuke thought to himself, 20 shadow clone researched the Flying Thunder God technique today, until the Night God Ryosuke took back the shadow clone just now. The reason has not been researched yet. Don't say you learned it. Haven't even caught a hint of it yet. There's a long way to go to learn the Flying Thunder God technique. This thing is really difficult. Night God Ryosuke also knows that Flying Thunder God technique depends on talent. If you have talent in this area, you will be able to get started soon, such as Namake's Minato. And if you don't have the talent for it, so sorry. Even if you learn to die, it is impossible to learn. Orochimaru also tried to learn the Flying Thunder God technique back then. Pity. This stuff is not something you can learn with a smart head. Orochimaru doesn't have that talent. So after practicing for a while and realizing the problem, he simply gave up. Tomorrow, 200 shadow clones will be assigned to study the Flying Thunder God technique. If there is no progress after 10 days, then stop practicing. Night God Ryosuke also set a time for himself. With the learning ability of 200 shadow clone, if there is no progress in 10 days, it means that he has no talent in time and space at all. That being the case, then there's no need to waste any more time. With this time, Yagami Ryosuke might as well study other ninjutsu more. See if he can create some powerful ninjutsu. He has 10 times the power bonus of ninjutsu. If he doesn't learn some powerful ninjutsu, wouldn't this bonus be wasted in vain? Night, Yagami Ryosuke was lying on the bed with his eyes closed. After a while, he suddenly opened his eyes and sat up. At this time, his eyes have opened the Manjiki Sharingan. A pair of bewitching blood-red eyes and 5 jet-black sickle patterns spinning rapidly. Sheeping has become one. The pupil art is finally conceived. Night God Ryosuke was a little excited. He immediately sensed the 2 pupil techniques bred in his eyes. Left eye, looting. Right eye, reverse. At the same time, within the pair of Manjiki, a greater power has been faintly awakened. It is Manjiki's signature pupil technique, Susanoo. Go and try. Night God Ryosuke immediately opened the window and flew out in an instant, running at a terrifying speed all the way. A moment later, Yi Shun was startled and arrived in a forest outside the village. About there, Night God Ryosuke stopped. A pair of blood-colored eyes seemed to be glowing in the darkness. Looking from a distance, only a pair of blood-red eyes can be seen floating in the darkness. Susanoo. Next second, in the eyes of Night God Ryosuke, a huge pupil power surged. Follow closely, sections of energy bones appeared, wrapping the body of Night God Ryosuke, and then a long skeletal arm began to appear. With the support of huge pupil power, Night God Ryosuke used Susanoo for the first time. It was very easy, and he didn't feel any pain, and he opened Susanoo's initial stage form. At this time, a gigantic rib of energy envelopes Night God Ryosuke in it. At the same time, two arms with a length of 50 or 60 meters opened. Boom! There was a loud bang. The surrounding trees were instantly smashed into pieces by the huge, open arms. Sawdust was flying. A black Susan with an extremely crude shape, but a particularly huge body appeared in this forest. Night God Ryosuke looked at this Susanoo form of himself. Initial form, but really heavenly. Yagami Ryosuke muttered to himself. After all, Indra 013's resentment. This entry fully increased the size of his Susan by 500%. In other words, Susan in the normal initial form is only 1/6 the size of the Night God Ryosuke. It's not that big of an exaggeration. It's great, but I think it can be even better. Night God Ryosuke's eyes instantly exploded with even bigger pupil power. His Manjiki pupil power, in the gift word with the blessing of the bar, it is fully 11 times that of a normal Manjiki who just opened his eyes, under the blessing of such a huge pupil power. Even if the Night God Ryosuke has only opened his eyes for 2 days. But he can easily control the ultimate power of Manjiki like Susanoo, with the Night God Ryosuke increasing the output of pupil power. Susan, who looked very simple at first, has gradually become plump at this time. The size of the body has increased by nearly half again, and at the same time, a skeleton's head has grown, and the shape of the bones has become more clear, and the entire exterior of Susan is shrouded in a layer of smoke. Ordinary black energy envelopes Ryosuke, the night god who is the caster. There is only an area under the feet, which is not protected. Susanoo. Phase 1. Come again. Yagami Ryosuke let out a loud shout. Next second, the soaring black energy enveloped a large area around it. The meridians and flesh and blood began to emerge from the huge, half-length Susan. As a layer of black energy wraps it, it forms a substance like a coat. Susanoo. Phase 2. Yagami Ryosuke waved his hands, and with a loud bang, black energy burst out from the hands of half-length Susan, followed by the formation of 2 huge energy ninja knives, which appeared on half-length Suzu's hands. Is it just ninja sword? Night God Ryosuke is a little dissatisfied. The filial son Itachi's shots are 2 artifacts. How come to me? Is it just an ordinary ninja sword? No cards. Night God Ryosuke looked at the 2 huge energy knives with a length of nearly 200 meters in Suzu's hands. With a simple wave of half-length Susanoo boom, 2 horrific black sword ki swept out, flying thousands of meters away in an instant, destroying everything along the way. Yagami Ryosuke. FK. It's a bit powerful. However, the movement was too great. Even though this is the outskirts of the village, such a movement may have attracted the attention of the village. Chapter 68. Horrible Plunder. The unscrupulous pupil technique appeared. 12 more time ago. Yagami Ryosuke then dispersed Susan, then disappeared in place in an instant. After a while, figures of ninjas appeared in the area where Night God Ryosuke was just now. However, they came a step late and found nothing. This night, sleepless nights for many. After Yi Shun Ryosuke returned home, he suppressed the excitement in his heart and immediately began to check the 2 pupil techniques he had awakened. Susanoo has tested it. Powerful spiral ascension explosion. The second stage alone is already ruining the world. It's hard to imagine if Night God Ryosuke were to activate the full body form. How terrifying would it be? Super Kage level? Wouldn't it be enough to have hands? In the room, the lights were not turned on. Night God Ryosuke was sitting on the edge of the bed, checking his two pupils. The plunder of the left eye, as the name suggests, is to plunder the power of others and turn it into one's own use. However, the pupil art of Ryosuke's left eye can only be plundered by other pupil art of Manjiki. Swallowing a Manjiki, you can plunder the pupil technique on the opponent's Manjiki. FK. So titanium? Night God Ryosuke didn't expect that he would be able to breed such a bug pupil technique. Doesn't this mean that he can have countless pupil techniques? Certainly, this is only theoretical. The truth is, there aren't that many Manjiki in this world for him to plunder. The Manjiki pupil techniques known now include Shursue's distinguished heavenly gods, Tsukuyumi and Amaterasu's, and Kimui's eyes. But Obito's other eye is on Kakashi. The one he himself carries is Kamui Hollow. This ability is also very buggy, and it is the foundation for Daijong to settle down. Without Kamui Hollow's Obito, there is no right to pretend to be Uchiha Madara. He was beaten up in minutes, and then his disguise was exposed. By the way, there's also Uchiha Fugaku's pair of Manjiki, but I don't know if this pair of Manjiki is still there. Night God Ryosuke suddenly remembered that the patriarch of the Uchiha clan who died at the hands of his own son also opened Manjiki. It's just that this guy is a bit brain-dead. Those who didn't even fight back were killed by the filial son. What a waste of a pair of Manjiki. Now the question is, are Uchiha Fugaku's Manjiki still available? Has it been destroyed by the filial son, Itachi? Not impossible, since the Manjiki haven't been seen since Uchiha Fugaku's death. Danzo doesn't have it, filial son Itachi doesn't have it, and brother Tuzi doesn't have it. Then there is a high probability that it will be destroyed by the filial son Rome on the spot. The purpose is to prevent my parents' eyes from falling on other people's hands. What a waste. Night God Ryosuke cursed. Except for this pair of Manjiki by Uchiha Fugaku. At present, the closest to the Night God Ryosuke is Shursue's Manjiki in Danzo's right eye. That Manjiki's pupil technique is Distinguished Heavenly Gods, the legendary terrifying pupil technique that can directly modify people's thoughts and will. But Night God Ryosuke thinks that Manjiki's Distinguished Heavenly Gods in Danzo's hand should not be as powerful as in the legend. Otherwise, he would have used Distinguished Heavenly Gods to control Sarutobi Hiruzen long ago. How can it be like today, every time being suppressed by Sarutobi Hiruzen, and Sarutobi Hiruzen will be blamed? And in the future 5 Kages tournament, Danzo also used Distinguished Heavenly Gods with this eye. The effect is only a short-term control. It's not permanent. And the Distinguished Heavenly Gods in Uchiha Itachi's hands may be the eyes that can truly modify a person's thoughts and will forever. However, my pupil technique also has a cooling time. With my pupil power and the blessing of the primary sage body, it will take half a year for this pupil technique to recover. If my pupil power is only at the level of ordinary Manjiki, and I don't have a primary sage body, I'm afraid it will take at least 10 years to recover. Half a year is not too long. There aren't that many Manjiki anyway. Even if you add the future Uchiha Madara and Sasuke, there are only 10. And among them, the pupil technique is repeated, like Amaterasu. Therefore, even without this cooling time, Night God Ryosuke would not be able to keep using this plunder pupil technique over and over again. So in fact, whether there's a cooling time or not, it seems to have no effect. Find a chance to plunder Danzo's Distinguished Heavenly Gods first. Yagami Ryosuke thought to himself. As for Kakashi's Manjiki, just wait till next time. Who makes Danzo more hated? The pupil technique of Ryosuke's left, I surprised him very much. Although it is not the pupil technique of time in the legend, it has infinite possibilities. After all, as long as someone else awakens a kind of pupil technique, Night God Ryosuke can directly plunder it. And maybe a new Manjiki will be born in the future. Although the Uchiha clan is over. Jay-Z, don't forget that there is resurrection in this world. Those people in Uchiha are dead, but their bodies are still buried in the Uchiha cemetery. Just take a little cell from them, then use reanimation jutsu, summoning to get the body of impure world reincarnation, and then use Rinne Tensei technique to revive. Wouldn't it be possible to reproduce Zung Jin's Uchiha? To be honest, Yagami Ryosuke had a problem when watching Hokage before. That's why Sasuke didn't use the Rinne Tensei technique to revive the dead Uchiha members at the end, even if he has normal relationship with other Uchiha. But what about his parents? Where's his favorite brother? Why not revive? He has Rinnegan too. Do you have to have both Rinnegan eyes to cast the Rinne Tensei technique? Or this Rinne Tensei technique, which is unique to Uchiha Madara's pair of Rinnegan. Shouldn't it? Anyway, Night God Ryosuke is quite puzzled. Pain can only use the Rinne Tensei technique to revive everyone in Konoha village, although at the cost of his own life. But Sasuke can completely control someone. First press the Rinnegan to the other party, and then get it back after using the Rinne Tensei technique. Isn't that all right? This is the same as Uchiha Madara's operation. It is completely feasible. But Sasuke just doesn't do that. Let the Night God Ryosuke completely understand. Maybe the one-eyed Rinnegan really can't use the Rinne Tensei technique. Night God Ryosuke can only think so. Otherwise, it can't be that Sasuke doesn't want to resurrect his dead relatives, can he? But if Night God Ryosuke can get a pair of Rinnegan in the future, he will definitely revive part of Uchiha. For nothing else, just to keep their eyes open. At least give me another Manjiki or two. What if there is none? Then the Night God Ryosuke can only send them back to the Pure Land. Waste. Living anyway is a waste of air. In the room, Yagami Ryosuke, who was sitting on the edge of the bed, suddenly had a very strange expression on his face. I can't tell if I want to cry or laugh. Just now, Night God Ryosuke checked the pupil technique called reversal in his right eye. Originally, he was looking forward to another pupil technique with such a heaven-defying ability. After all, the pupil technique of the left eye came first. It's no wonder that Night God Ryosuke is looking forward to it. Can result, Yagami Ryosuke found out that his guess at the beginning turned out to be true. The pupil technique of his right eye is not a serious pupil technique at all. The so-called reversal, Night God Ryosuke guessed before whether it was related to time or something, such as reversing time, or even reversing cause and effect. Pity, these are purely Night God Ryosuke's overthinking. What reverses time reverses cause and effect? None at all. What kind of gender is reversed? And it can only be reversed from a male to a female. What the hell am I? Night God Ryosuke couldn't help but want to swear. That's right. Lousy is a beautiful girl who likes the second dimension. But what the hell, Lousy likes pure girls, not transgender. What kind of rubbish is the eye of the soul portrayed? Did you see it wrong? Night God Ryosuke couldn't help cursing in his heart. After a while, his excitement finally calmed down a little. Thinking about it on the bright side, in fact, this pupil technique is very powerful when used to disgust people. At least it is not completely useless. Moreover, with 5 times the power of the pupil technique, I can even use this pupil technique to reverse all 6 paths level powerhouses into women. Thinking about it, if you turn Sage of 6 paths into fairies, it's actually pretty cool. Interesting. Yagami Ryosuke comforted himself in his heart. He can only think about the good side now. Otherwise, what else can he do? Return it? This thing will not be refunded. Fortunately, the pupil technique of his left eye is powerful, directly plundering other people's pupil technique. Even if one's own right eye pupil technique is an unscrupulous titanium-changing pupil technique, at least it is acceptable. However, after the reversal, will the object change in appearance or something? Night God Ryosuke couldn't help being a little curious. If it wasn't for the fact that the commotion just now was so loud that there are ninjas looking for people everywhere, Yagami Ryosuke really wants to go out now and try the effect of this right eye pupil technique. Not to mention the harmfulness. But insulting This pupil technique is directly full. By the way, how about trying on Naruto? Yagami Ryosuke suddenly chuckled and thought to himself, if Naruto becomes Naruko, will Sasuke fall in love with Naruko? Then the two of them vomit. Can't think about it anymore, or I'll throw up. However, the reverse pupil technique of Ryosuke's right eye is very thoughtful and has two different reversed modes. One is permanent mode. That is, after a one-time reversal, it will not change back again. And the other is semi-permanent mode. Night God Ryosuke can set a reversal maintenance time by himself. The minimum is 7 days, and the longest can be maintained for half a year. Is this to make it easier for Night God Ryosuke to spoof the male friend around him? Feels so guilty. However, if you play like this, will it cause death? Next day, after Yagami Ryosuke had breakfast and changed into Umbu's uniform, it was Mitsuki Kamami who ordered him to go out. The deepest part of the #1 training ground, Umbu headquarters. Yagami Ryosuke rushed with the body flicker technique. Arrived here soon, the training ground of the 7th class. Night God Ryosuke met his 3 teammates. At the same time, there was a figure with his back facing him, but with a long purple hair that was particularly conspicuous, also standing on the training ground. Sister Shien? Night God Ryosuke was slightly surprised to see the other party. So, the Captain Heiya and the others mentioned yesterday, who was on vacation, was actually Yuzuki Shien? Did this old guy, Sarutobi Hiruzen, do it on purpose? Yagami Ryosuke thought to himself, the night moon is coming. Black Fong and the others also noticed Night God Ryosuke at this moment, beckoning him to pass. Yeah, let me introduce you. This is our Captain Z. Black Fong introduced. Yagami Ryosuke looked at Yuzuki Yugao, who was also wearing a mask in front of him. Captain, I'm Yue, who just joined the 7th class. He said seriously. Yuzuki Shien also smiled under the mask. In fact, she already knew that Yagami Ryosuke would be assigned to her 7th class. Sarutobi Hiruzen had already greeted her. Money is good. But she never told Yagami Ryosuke, just wanted to see his expression. But she seems to have forgotten that everyone in Umbu is wearing a mask. Naturally, you can't see the expression or something. Now that everyone is here, let's start today's task. Yuzuki Yugao nodded to Yagami Ryosuke and said, Task. Night God Ryosuke couldn't help but look forward to it. 10 minutes later, near the enchantment outside the village, Yagami Ryosuke follows his teammate and is on patrol missions under the leadership of Yuzuki Yuyen. No, this is our task. Yagami Ryosuke walked for a while and finally couldn't help asking. He thought he was going out of the village to perform some assassination mission. Fortunately, he was looking forward to it before. The result, that's it. Yeyue, do you think that the missions we Umbu perform are all dangerous assassination missions? The Tengu next to him laughed and said, Actually, what we Umbu perform the most is patrol missions. As long as there are no other missions, we spend most of our time in the village. The situation of patrolling the village's enchantment around the village makes it easier. Unless there are foreign enemies invading, otherwise we'll basically walk around the village all day. Yagami Ryosuke. Chapter 69. Collect biopheromones. Hyuga middle time. Guang set his hands on me. First update, Imaginary Umbu. Standing on the roof, wearing a mask under the blood moon to lock the target position. Kills 7 in and 7 out, leaving no one alive. Umbu in reality. Patrol around the village every day, rain or shine, chat and drink tea, and discuss what to eat at noon. Night God Ryosuke felt that he was somewhat young and ignorant. Still looking forward to it. Bah, vasta my feelings. Seeing the speechless Night God Ryosuke, Black Fong and the others also laughed. It's almost like this every time a newcomer comes. Every newcomer will have an imagination about Umbu's work, and their imagination is often quite different from the reality. Yue, don't be disappointed. In fact, we occasionally receive missions like assassination, but the frequency is not high. Tengu smiled and patted Yagami Ryosuke on the shoulder and said, Night God Ryosuke didn't want to talk anymore. Fortunately, he had sympathized with Naruto, and they had to do boring tasks such as weeding and finding pets every day, but he himself had to patrol the outskirts of the village every day. Lunch break at noon. Umbu's lunch break is plenty. A full 2 hours. During these 2 hours, you can eat and rest for a while, chat, or exchange cultivation experience with teammates and the like. In the night, God Ryosuke ran to Umbu's public training ground after having lunch. It's not that the Knight God Ryosuke will come here to practice. In fact, in the know, for training ground at this time, there are 500 of his shadow clones who are working hard to cultivate. Knight God Ryosuke himself can become stronger while lying down. It's just that he has some requirements for himself, so he usually follows the practice together. But the God Ryosuke did not come to practice today. He's here to find material. How big is Umbu's public training ground? Is the no one training ground outside big enough? It is open to all ninjas in the village. As long as you apply, you can basically pass it. And Umbu's own public training ground is not much smaller than the #1 training ground outside. It is almost a forest of the same size. Moreover, the environment of the Umbu public training ground is even more dangerous. Only ninjas with sufficient professional knowledge and strength can survive here. Knight God Ryosuke also came to Umbu's public training ground for the first time. As soon as he entered, he met a black bear with a shoulder height of more than 2 meters. The black bear roared and charged forward. Its huge size and width did not affect its speed at all. "Honey, how do you know I'm not full?" Knight God Ryosuke laughed and rushed forward and punched the black bear directly on the head. Crack! The skull was directly crushed by his punch. The huge black bear fell to the ground and slid 5 or 6 meters before stopping. Knight God Ryosuke turned around, picked up the black bear's body, and sealed it in the storage space in his palm. A few minutes later, Knight God Ryosuke stood on a tree surrounded by more than a dozen people and saw an Umbu ninja practicing there from distance. The opponent did not find the Knight God Ryosuke. After observing for a while, Knight God Ryosuke determined that the strength of this Umbu ninja should have reached the level of Jinin. So he released an insect that looked like a grasshopper. If you look carefully, you will find that the eyes of this grasshopper-like insect are blood red, and there are 5 black sickle patterns in it. Go ahead and bring me back what I want. Knight God Ryosuke watched the grasshopper fly by. A grasshopper, an Umbu ninja of Jinin level, wouldn't go unnoticed, but he wouldn't care. It was just a grasshopper after all. Then, Knight God Ryosuke easily used this grasshopper control by Sharingan to get a drop of that Umbu ninja's blood. The opponent's hand that beat the stump was skinned. Bleeding is also normal. Fixed, move on to the next one. Knight God Ryosuke disappeared in a tree, looking for the next target again. Take a 2-hour break at noon. Yagami Ryosuke went out for half an hour to eat at the beginning and spent the next hour and a half in the public training ground looking for the right look. He found a total of 16 Umbu ninjas practicing in the public training ground. Among them are 5 Jinin, 4 special Jinin, and the other 7 are Chinin. And Knight God Ryosuke also collected a lot of biological pheromones, such as hair and blood. All of them were stored in the system's biological pheromone warehouse. The 7th class training ground. Yagami Ryosuke arrived at the last minute before the end of the lunch break. Maue Shien glanced at him and then said, "Everyone is here. Follow me now." "Captain, is there a mission?" Tengu asked curiously. Yuzuki Shien nodded and walked ahead without saying a word. "Yue, you are lucky. You just encountered this kind of mission on the 2nd day of your arrival," Tengu said to Knight God Ryosuke with a smile. In the morning, the Knight God Ryosuke was still complaining about Umbu's boring work, but he came to the task in the afternoon. "May all your wishes come true." Soon, Yuzuki Shien brought their 7th class to an open field. There are already quite a few Umbu teams gathered here. With the addition of their 7th class, exactly 4 classes have arrived. Standing in front is an Umbu ninja wearing a cat mask. "That's our squad leader," Tengu said in a low voice. Yagami Ryosuke nodded. The sub-leaders are generally the strength of elite Jinin, and the previous captain of the 2nd team was Kakashi. "Everyone follow me. The mission will tell you on the way." For the first time, Hyuga glanced at the Umbu members present with a pair of white eyes, and his tone was very serious. It could be seen that he had really encountered a big task. Otherwise, they wouldn't have dispatched the entire Umbu team. This is a terrible situation. The entire team is involved. This is at least an A-level mission. The Tengu beside him muttered softly. Yagami Ryosuke glanced at him, not sure if he was really worried. Or was he playing himself on purpose? After all, Night God Ryosuke already knew that the opponent was a ninja from the Sarutobi clan. It is basically certain that he is the person Sarutobi Hiruzen arranged to monitor him. Therefore, the possibility of acting is not ruled out. Set off. Hyuga gave an order again, and instantly all the Umbu members of the second unit disappeared in place. Village entrance. Night God Ryosuke found that Umbu did not need to show the village certificate when he went out of the village to perform a mission. Neither Gang Ziti nor Shanyue Izumo, who were in charge of guarding the gate of the village, stopped them. Instead, they watched their brigade disappear with curious expressions on their faces. There are so many Umbu dispatched. What happened? The two thought curiously. A few minutes later, Night God Ryosuke, they have been away from the village for some distance. At this time, Hyuga told them the situation of the mission. Our goal this time is to recover the village's confidential information. The opposite side is suspected to be the Cloud Shinobi Ninja from the Land of Thunder. Everyone cheered me up. This time a mission can only succeed and not fail. Hyuga announced loudly for the first time, and then continued to lead the crowd to start tracking the target. Half an hour later, Hyuga in front stopped for the second time. The goal is separated, and we are also separated, he said. Then with a finger, let the people of the four teams disperse and track the target from four directions. Z, you come with me. Hyuga Chuji finally said to Yuzuki Yugao in their team. Yuzuki Shien nodded and had no opinion. She knew very well why Hyuga Jonji made such an arrangement, because the other three classes were led by official Jnin, and only their seventh class, her small leader, was only special Jnin strength. That's why Hyuga's subcaptain, the EBFC, with the strength of elite Jnin, will follow them. Set off. Hyuga led the team of the 7th class for the second time and followed a trace on the left. On the way, Night God Ryosuke looked at the Hyuga in front of him. The other party should be a member of the branch house of the Hyuga clan. With the strength of elite Jnin, the Hyuga clan also belongs to the elite class. But the branch house of the Hyuga family has no human rights. You can only obey the orders of the Zong family. Even if the other party is just an ordinary Jnin, or even just a Chnin, as long as they are members of the Zong family, they have to be obedient. I don't know if it's an illusion, but Night God Ryosuke has felt that the subcaptain of the Hyuga clan seems to be watching him several times just now. Once or twice, it may still be a coincidence. But after 5 or 6 times, Night God Ryosuke became suspicious. This guy knows me? Wouldn't it be the Gorying faction who came to assassinate me? Yagami Ryosuke thought jokingly. Wait, it seems that this possibility is not impossible. As we all know, what Danzo likes to do most is to dig out talents among the various ninjas in the village, and then fool them to the roots to serve him. There are many ninjas under him from all major ninja clans. In addition to not having the Sarutobi clan, there are even ninjas from the Zanzu and Mito clans. And what Danzo likes most are those ninjas who have blood succession limits. Pity. Uchiha is too arrogant to be used by him, so settle for the next best thing. It is quite normal for Danzo to focus on the Hyuga clan. Exactly. The Hyuga family has a clan and branch house system, which makes it easier for him to confuse those branch house ninjas. Although the existence of the cage bird makes the fate of the ninjas of the branch house of the Hyuga clan controlled by the Zongjia. But as long as Danzo has a word, is it possible that the Zongjia will not give him face as the leader of this route? Therefore, among the routes led by Danzo, there are some ninjas from the branch house of the Hyuga clan. Uneven. This Hyuga is also a member who was bought by Danzo. Is Guiying's attack so fast? Yagami Ryosuke thought to himself. But Night God Ryosuke is not worried about his safety. The ninja that Danzo can send out to assassinate him is elite Jnin. It is impossible for a Kaga-level ninja to assassinate him. Not to mention that Danzo has no such talent at all. Even if there is, nor will it be dispatched. And the few elite Jnin, Night God Ryosuke, have long been ignored. It's hard to say. Night God Ryosuke, even if they stand still and let them fight, they can't kill him. The B-level ninjutsu performed by Chunin can only make Night God Ryosuke feel a little uncomfortable, but it doesn't break the defense at all. So, even with an elite Chunin, the best is to cause some minor injuries to him. And with the restoration of Night God Ryosuke recovery ability, this degree of injury, he recovered in the blink of an eye. Want to kill him? Save yourself. Unless it is some powerful ninjutsu. For example, Kakashi's Raikiri has extremely strong penetrating power and can directly break through the defense of Night God Ryosuke and even hurt his internal organs. But most elite Jnin actually don't have this kind of lethality. After all, not everyone is a genius like Kakashi who can create ninjutsu like Raikiri himself. What's more, Night God Ryosuke will not really stand still and let them fight. He is not a wooden man. 10 minutes later, Hyuga in front stopped suddenly. What's the matter? Sub-Captain, Yuzuki Shien asked. Be careful. There is an ambush ahead. Hyuga said in a low voice. They're coming fast. What? Yuzuki Shien and the three of them were startled. On the other hand, Ryosuke, the night god, seemed very calm, as if he had expected it a long time ago. After a while, several figures sprang out from the forest. All they did was kill the night god Ryosuke and the other 6. Especially night god Ryosuke. He was directly targeted by the 2 ninjas on the opposite side and killed him. I'll hold them back, you go. Hyuga held off 3 opposing ninjas whose strength had reached Jnin by himself. Then he yelled at Yui Shien and the others, telling them to leave quickly. Squad leader, but Yuzuki Shien was still hesitating whether to leave or not. At this time, Hyuga shouted loudly and directly hit the 8 trigrams air palm to force the 3 Jnins on the opposite side back. Go. This is an order, he yelled. This time, Yuzuki Shien did not hesitate any longer. You go first. She yelled at Tengu and the 3 of them. Then he rushed to the night god Ryosuke. Team leader, Black Fawn yelled. Stop yelling. Let's go over and find other people to support immediately. The captain and the others can hold on. Tengu pulled Hei Fong and then flew towards the distance directly. Hei Fong and Shadow also shook their heads when they saw it and followed. Captain, Yue, you must hold on. Chapter 70. Hyuga and Hokage. Am I exposed? Yagami Ryosuke. Sister Shien, this is our little secret. Second update, Captain, why don't you go? Yagami Ryosuke knocked away several flying shurikens with one blow, then turned his head and said to Yuzuki Shien, who came to help. I'm leaving, what do you do? Yuzuki Shien said something and then instantly drew a knife and fought with a ninja on the opposite side. Yeah, Huewu will run as soon as he finds an opportunity. Yuzuki Shien fought a few tricks with the ninja on the opposite side and found that the opponent's swordsmanship level is still higher than her own. She can hold on for a while in a short time, but if it takes a long time, she is almost certain to lose. Captain, what are you talking about? Yagami Ryosuke pulled the knife out of the ninja's neck across from him. The blood on the blade was still dripping down the tip. Yuzuki Shien. No, you're done with it? Are our 2 opponents so powerful? Rao Yuzuki Shien is already a veteran ninja, and at this moment, she couldn't help being stunned by this wave of operations by Yagami Ryosuke. Fortunately, it wasn't just her who was stunned, but also the ninja opposite her. Otherwise, even if it was just a moment of stupefaction, it would be enough to make her die more than once. Yuzuki Shien didn't know what to say for a while. At this time, another night, god Ryosuke appeared behind the opposite ninja. Puff! The ninja knife instantly pierced the man's chest. The heart was stabbed in half. This ninja never thought that Ryosuke, the night god, would sneak attack at this time until his death. Besides, he didn't realize at all that the night god Ryosuke on the opposite side was just a clone. Boom! Another night god, Ryosuke, disappeared instantly. Yuzuki Shien looked at him in surprise. Captain, don't be dazed, let's go. Yagami Ryosuke directly took Yuzuki Yugao's little hand and instantly swept towards the depths of the forest. The other side, Hyuga Nakaji, who was still trying to hold back the three ninjas on the opposite side, looked back at this time and found that the other two ninjas had been killed. The original target knight, God Ryosuke, also disappeared. Trash. Hurry up. Hyuga's face darkened for the first time, and he simply stopped acting. Let's chase together. We must not let the knight, God Ryosuke, escape. The task entrusted by Mr. Danzo must not be missed. The three ninjas on the opposite side are actually root ninjas, and their task is to cooperate with Hyuga Nakaji to find a chance to kill the target knight, God Ryosuke, this time, and bring back the dead body of the target. It's just that an accident happened just after the mission started. Then the four immediately chased after the knight, God Ryosuke. The three rooted ninjas are all Chunin strength, and Hyuga is an elite Chunin. The speed is naturally much faster than the knight, God Ryosuke, who is only at the Chunin level in the data. But after chasing for a while, they found that they couldn't catch up with the knight, God Ryosuke, who was running away. Damn, the information is wrong. The target is not Chunin at all. Hyuga Zhongji has been locking the target in front of him with blank eyes, and found that no matter how hard they chase, the distance between the two sides has not been shortened at all, and even has been pulled apart a little bit. This made Hyuga secretly scold the people in the intelligence department for the first time, because they didn't understand the real strength of the target at all. Is this really Chunin? Can your Chunin run faster than elite Chunin? What the hell is with a person? Just when Hyuga was cursing for the first time, cursing that the life son of the intelligence department has no hole, the two people in front suddenly stopped. Can't run anymore? Hyuga frowned for the second time, feeling that this was not the case. But he just wanted to stop to remind the three root ninjas to be careful. But the three of them rushed up without hesitation. Three idiots! Hyuga cursed secretly for the first time and could only give up his life to accompany the gentleman to chase after him. But he also wondered, because within the observation range of his white eyes, there are only the chakra fluctuations of Ryosuke and Yuzuki Shien. There is no third person. That is to say, there is no possibility of someone ambushed there. But the reason why he can't run away is impossible no matter how you look at it. It can't be that these two people suddenly don't want to run away after running for a while and plan to fight back, right? He admits that Knight God Ryosuke is far more powerful than he imagined. At the age of 12, he already has the strength of a formal Chunin. But no matter how strong he is it possible that he can counterkill their three official Chunin plus an elite Chunin? Not to mention, there are three teammates behind them who are still on their way. No matter how you look at it, it is impossible to lose, unless there is some ninja who can block his wide-eyed perception lying in ambush over there. Are there any ninjas like that? Anyway, Hyuga Zhongxi has never heard of it, let alone encountered it. In an open space, Yagami Ryosuke let go of Yuzuki Yugao, who had been in his arms just now. Yue, why don't you run away? Yuzuki Shien asked suspiciously. Although she was surprised by Ryosuke's speed just now, why did she stop suddenly when she was still running? It's almost done. Just solve them here. As Yagami Ryosuke said, he also reached out and took off the mask on his face. Ryosuke, are you crazy? Yuzuki Shien couldn't understand what Yagami Ryosuke did. Sister Shien, of course I'm not crazy, but no matter what you see later, don't tell anyone other than you and me. This is a little secret between the two of us, okay? Yuzuki Shien. Ryosuke, wouldn't you show? Here they come. Night God Ryosuke said suddenly. Then look over there. Brush, brush, brush. Three figures landed in front of the two without distinction. Then a second or two later, Hyuga Nakaji, still in Umbu uniform, arrived. Squad leader, what are you doing? Yuzuki Yugao stared at Hyuga Yuji, who was standing with that cloud shinobi ninja, in disbelief. Sister Shien, are you surprised why our sub-captain is standing with these cloud shinobi ninjas? Yagami Ryosuke said with a faint smile. Yuzuki Shien nodded subconsciously. She really can't understand. Actually, they're not cloud shinobi ninjas at all, am I right? Knight God Ryosuke looked at the three root ninjas disguised as cloud shinobi ninjas. 3 ninjas from the Root organization. Do you want to continue acting? The faces of the 3 Root ninjas on the opposite side remained unchanged, and they did not get angry because their identities were revealed. The Root ninjas led by Danzo are almost a group of killing machines. They have been trained since they were young to abandon their personal feelings and put Shimura Danza's order first. At the same time, they were also planted with a tongue curse to eradicate technique, so that even if they betrayed Danzo, they would not be able to tell any secrets about Root and Danzo. When did you find out? Compared to the 3 emotionless Root ninjas like puppets, Hyuga was just bought by Danzo for the second time. In essence, he is different from these Root ninjas. Not quite a Danzo guy. Therefore, Hyuga Chuji also looked at Night God Ryosuke with a look of surprise at this moment, wondering when this kid saw through all this. I didn't notice it at first, but you watched me secretly several times, and I realized that you might have a problem. Yagami Ryosuke said. As for them, Yagami Ryosuke smiled and said, "Do you need a reason to doubt Shimura Dan's? It is not without reason that there are so many pots on Guoying. Anyway, as long as Konoha encounters this kind of thing, I directly suspect that Shimura Dan's did it. And I can get 9.5 times out of 10. But apparently Hyuga didn't know about it for the second time. So he couldn't understand the words of the Night God Ryosuke. And he could only think that Danzo sent someone to find the Night God Ryosuke before. That's why he was alerted? Forget it, no matter when you found out. It's too late to say anything now. Hyuga didn't bother to continue thinking about such meaningless questions for the second time. Anyway, as long as you kill Night God Ryosuke and let the Root Ninja take his body back, your mission is considered complete. As a member of the branch house of the Hyuga family, Hyuga Nakaji knew from a young age that if he didn't find a backer, sooner or later he would die for his family like other branch house members. He didn't want his life to be like this. So he found Shimura Dan's, took the initiative to send his vote certificate, and joined the leader of the Root organization. No way. Although the best backer in Konoha is Sarutobi Hiruzen, Master Hokage. However, Sarutobi Hiruzen will not make things difficult for a member of the branch house of the Hyuga clan at all. Asking for flowers, oh, but Danzo is different. Because he couldn't buy off the ninjas of the Hyuga clan. He could only settle for the next best thing and set his sights on them branch house ninjas. Then use his own status to blackmail the Hyuga family, not allowing them to continue to use Caged Bird to control these branch house ninjas who have taken refuge in him. The Hyuga family is definitely not happy about this. But no way. In Konoha, Hokage and the elders are the ones who have the right to speak, and other ninjas are just attached. So what if it's stronger than Uchiha? If you are disobedient, you will be exterminated directly. To be honest, the matter of Uchiha's genocide really frightened the other ninja families in Konoha. Since Uchiha was exterminated, other ninja families have become much more honest. One by one, they no longer dare to raise any doubts about some of Sarutobi Hiruzen's decisions, for fear that it will be their turn next. Under such a big environment, Danzo asked for some branch house ninjas. Can the Hyuga clan not agree? Do they dare to agree? Hyuga is just one of many ninjas who took refuge in Danzo, and it's still in secret. Identity has not been revealed. Otherwise, he can't be Umbu's sub-captain either. Sarutobi Hiruzen certainly wouldn't put Danzo's men in high positions in Umbu. He wouldn't do this when the two of them wore a pair of pants before. Not to mention, Sarutobi Hiruzen is now working to suppress Danzo's influence in the village. It will not be arranged like this. Ryosuke, what the hell is going on here? Yuzuki Shien simply doesn't call Yagami Ryosuke's Umbu codename. The people in front of me, whether they're Japanese or Japanese Xiang Zhongji, the team leader, and these 3 Root ninjas disguised as Cloud Shinobi, obviously all came for the Night God Ryosuke. Now that it's all said and done, what else is there to hide? It's nothing, it's just that a certain Pot Shadow has lost his mind. Night God Ryosuke taunted. Pot Shadow? Does Konoha have this shadow? Isn't it only Hokage? Yuzuki Shien found that she couldn't understand some vocabulary of Yagami Ryosuke more and more. I said earlier that there is no reason to doubt Shimura Dan's, but now I'm talking about Pot Shadows. She was really confused. In short, Sister Shien, you just need to know that these guys came to kill me under the order of Shimura Dance. Yagami Ryosuke said. Yuzuki Shien nodded. She could still understand this. But why? I'll explain this later. Let's deal with these guys first. Yagami Ryosuke said. Hearing this, Hyuga on the opposite side also took off his mask for the first time, revealing a face of a middle-aged man in his 30s. He sneered and said, "Get rid of us?" Night God Ryosuke, I admit that you are a genius, but you are too conceited, right? Don't think that with a little talent, you are invincible. Boy, you still have a lot to learn. Hyuga sneered a few times, then threw away the mask casually, waved his hand, and the 3 root ninjas rushed up instantly. Just let the 3 of them come on? Forget it. It doesn't make any difference anyway. Night God Ryosuke shook his head slightly, then let go of his speed, disappeared instantly, and appeared in front of the 3 root ninjas. 64-64 bang bang. A face-to-face, Night God Ryosuke grasped a root Junin's kunai with his palm. The sharp kunai pierced his palm, not even scratching his oily skin. Night God Ryosuke kicked one of Junin's hands instantly with a side kick, and the opponent's entire 2 arms exploded in an instant, and countless flesh and bones mixed with bone fragments splashed out. Finally, this root Junin also wants to make seals to release ninjutsu. In the eyes of Night God Ryosuke, the speed of a seal is as slow as a snail. Yagami Ryosuke directly grabbed his 2 arms, broke them lightly, and with a click his arm bones broke in 2. Chapter 71. Janine. Isn't that easy to kill? Aburaim, take root. Third update boom. With a kick in the chest, this root Junin was instantly kicked out by the Night God Ryosuke. Just for a moment, Night God Ryosuke pulled back and returned to the spot. As for the 3 Jinbu Junins rushing up from the opposite side, except for one kunai who looked at him with a blade in surprise, there were no wounds on his body. The other 2 are already horrible, especially the one whose hands were directly kicked by the Night God Ryosuke, screaming and rolling on the ground, dying of pain. System, if the original owner of the biological pheromones I collected dies, can the biological pheromones I collected before be used? Night God Ryosuke suddenly asked the system in his heart. He was thinking about this just now. The root Junin in front of me, as well as the members of this Hyuga branch house, are undoubtedly good transformation targets. If they're killed like this, then the talent entries on them cannot be transformed. It's a pity. But don't kill, that's not okay. Night God Ryosuke was thinking that the biological pheromone required by the system must be obtained from living people. Then if he obtains it from a living person first, and then kills the person, does that even count? As long as the biological pheromone obtained from the living target, no matter whether the living target needs it or not, it can be effectively transformed. The system quickly responded. That's it, that's good. Yagami Ryosuke nodded, satisfied with the answer. In this case, in the future, as long as he obtains biological pheromone from the living target, whether this person is dead or not has nothing to do with him. Anyway, a person can only transform once. It doesn't matter if 073 is dead. After knowing this situation, things will be easier to handle. In the split-second fight, just now, Night God Ryosuke has already obtained their biological pheromones from the 3 roots Junin on the opposite side. At this moment, it has been stored in the system's biopheromone warehouse. Leftover, there is only elite Junin from this Hyuga branch house in Hyuga. In fact, this guy is the real target of Night God Ryosuke. The 3 root Junin are at most just 1 extra head. As for the 2 root ninjas with special Junin strength, Night God Ryosuke didn't think much of them. And the killing was too fast just now, and they didn't have time to take away their biological pheromones first. This night, God Ryosuke felt that he had to reflect on himself. No matter what, at least he had to get a sample of biopheromone from the other party first. Then you can kill whatever you want. Excuse me, what did you just say? What else do I have to learn? Night God Ryosuke said to Hyuga, who was facing him with a smile. Hyuga Zhongzi, 21, what the hell are you? What kind of monster are you? At the age of 12, a face-to-face solution to 2 official Junin? Even Itaki Kakashi back then was not so awesome. This moment, Hyuga was already a little panicked at the time. He suddenly realized that things seemed to be completely out of his control. The opponent's strength is not what they thought at all, even stronger than what he just thought. With this kind of taijutsu, even if you were the taijutsu type elite Jnin in the village, you are nothing more than that. But the problem is, Yagami Ryosuke is just a 12-year-old kid. For the second time, Hyuga thought about his strength when he was 12 years old. He was also a genius in ninja school back then. With excellent grades, he graduated from ninja school ahead of schedule at the age of 10, was promoted to Chunin at the age of 12, and became an official Chunin at the age of 18. Hyuga Chuji always thought he was a genius. Even the Hyuga Niji, praised by many people in the branch house. In Hyuga Jonji's opinion, his talent is not as good as himself. He became an elite Chunin at the age of 27 and performed thousands of missions, large and small. There are many S-level missions among them. But this talent, compared with the knight god Ryosuke in front of him, it's not even a fart. 12-year-old elite Chunin. How the hell do you compare? But fortunately, Hyuga Chuji still has helpers here, and they have arrived. Thinking to himself, Hyuga Chuji's eyes were also looking to the rear right. There are 3 figures coming towards this side quickly. After a few seconds, 3 figures landed on the open space. As soon as Aburame came to pick up the roots, he saw the 2 root Chunin on the ground who were screaming that they would rather die, and they couldn't help frowning. As one of Danzo's right-hand men, Aburame's roots are different from ordinary root ninjas. He has his own thoughts, but he respects and admires Lord Danzo from the bottom of his heart and is willing to sacrifice his life for Lord Danzo. This time, Danzo personally handed over the task to him and asked him to do it. Originally, Aburame took the root and considered that Ryosuke, the night god, is a civilian genius valued by Sir Toby Hiruzen, so he has already made very sufficient preparations. Just now he took the other 2 root Chunin, which is dealing with the other 3 members of the 7th squad. At this moment, Hei Fong and the 3 of them have been knocked out and tied up. Make sure they don't go to other Umbu members to come and support them. Coupled with the fact that Hyuga Jonji, who no one knows has taken refuge in Danzo, this should be a foolproof move. But now, things seem to have taken some unexpected turns. How is this going? Aburame looked at Hyuga and asked for the root. Your information is wrong. Night God Ryosuke is not Chunin strength at all, but has elite Chunin level strength. He's a little monster, Hyuga said in a dissatisfied tone. If it wasn't for the fact that the root information was wrong, he wouldn't have led people to intercept and kill Night God Ryosuke just now with full confidence. Fortunately, he didn't do it himself just now. Otherwise, if you're careless, you may really capsize in the gutter. Elite Chunin? You call this brat? Aburame also looked at Hyuga Chuji in disbelief, and then at Ryosuke, the night god who smiled and looked at them. The brat. You don't seem to be nervous at all. What's going on? Are you? Aburame rooted. At this time, Yuzuki Shien, who was on the side, suddenly looked at Aburame and asked, "Oh, you know me?" Aburame took root and looked at her. Yuzuki Shien nodded and said, "At the ninja school, I was 1 level older than you, and I often saw you sitting alone in the corner of the school playground at that time." Hearing this, Aburame took the root and laughed at himself and said, "What? You think I'm very pitiful?" Yuzuki Shien opened her mouth, not knowing how to answer this question, because she really felt pitiful for Aburame at the time. "Don't sympathize with me, because I have found my purpose in life. Now, Master Danzo's will is my will, so as long as it is what Master Danzo ordered, I must complete it." Aburame took a look at Yuzuki Shien. He had seen the other person's eyes countless times, and he was already used to it. He is not needed. What he wants is approval and faith, and Master Danzo is his faith. Aburame root, phosphorus? Night God Ryosuke has also heard of Aburame, who is the same as the taciturn Aburame Shino in their class, and Night God Ryosuke also heard that Aburame Shino occasionally mentioned the name Aburame. And, according to Shino, the other party has a very special ability even among their Aburame clan. Generally, the bugs controlled by the Aburame family are just ordinary parasites. But Aburame rooting is different. His body is full of highly poisonous phosphorus-carrying bad bugs. Phosphorus pests are much more lethal than ordinary parasites, so that even Aburame can't control them 100% by himself and will accidentally injure people around him from time to time. This also led to the fact that Aburame has no friends since childhood. Everyone will stay away from him. Think he's a monster. This treatment is a bit similar to Naruto, but Naruto is worse than Aburame's rooting. At least Aburame's rooting is only rejected by people, but Naruto is also insulted and even stones are thrown at him. Unlike Naruto's positive personality, Aburame is a very taciturn person. In Uzuki Shiin's memory, she hardly ever heard the other party speak. And since graduating from the ninja school, he has completely disappeared from the sight of the people around him. Little is known about where Aburame took its roots. I'm afraid only the senior officials of the Aburame family will know that he was asked to leave by Danzo. Although Aburame's root is younger than Uzuki Shiin, his strength is far superior to Uzuki Shiin's. The special phosphorus bugs that live in his body give him terrifying lethality. Even just touching it is enough to kill a person. This is a pretty tough guy. The strength is extremely powerful even among elite Chunin. In addition, Hyuga Zhongji, the ninja of the Hyuga family who is also elite Chunin. Even some quasi-Kage level ninjas have to be careful when they encounter the two of them. If one is not good, the ship may capsize in the gutter. Ryosuke, this Aburame rooting phosphorus bug, is highly poisonous. Even touching it is enough to kill a person. You must be careful. At this time, Uzuki Shiin also knew that she couldn't help at all. Her strength can't even beat any Chunin with roots on the opposite side, let alone helping Night God Ryosuke deal with elite Chunin like Aburame and Hyuga Chuji. So she can only provide some information to Ryosuke, the Night God, so that he can be psychologically prepared when he fights. Don't worry, Sister Shiin, Yishun Ryosuke said with a smile. However, if there is a fight later, Sister Shiin, you'd better stay away. After all, the aftermath of the battle for a while may be a bit large. Mayua Shiin nodded, and after a word of caution, she retreated towards the rear. Wait until Uzuki Shiin is gone. Night God Ryosuke looked at these people on the opposite side and said, "Okay, do you have any last words now?" Aburame looked at him coldly, waved. The two root Junins beside him dispersed instantly, attacking Yagami Ryosuke from left and right directions. At the same time, he also shot together with Hyuga Nakaji, one in front and one behind, and surrounded the Night God Ryosuke in middle. Looks like it's gone. Yagami Ryosuke smiled slightly. Next second, his hands quickly formed seals. Fire style. Phoenix fire technique. Dozens of huge fireballs were blown from the mouth of Night God Ryosuke. Each fireball is ridiculously large. With a diameter of more than 4 meters, it is even bigger than the Great Fireball. Is this the Phoenix Immortal Fire technique? Opposite Root the ninja couldn't help but widen his eyes. Boom! There was a loud noise, and a huge fireball hit the ground, causing a violent explosion. A large area of flame spread. A few Root ninjas were so scared that they immediately used ninjutsu to resist. Water-style water barrier. Wind-style crush. There's a wind style that has not been copied. Night God Ryosuke noticed the ninjutsu performed by one of the Roots, Chunin, and immediately copied it with Sharingan. In the next second, huge fireballs hit the water barrier one after another. The high temperature and explosion directly evaporated the large water curtain. The root behind water barrier 2. 6 Chunin drew back with a pale face and watched helplessly as one after another fireballs broke through the water barrier's barrier and bombarded where he was originally standing. In an instant, the ground was blasted into big pits with a diameter of 5 or 6 meters. Is this the kind of damage a Class C fire style can do? Several Roots, Chunin even wondered if he was wrong. In fact, this is not the Phoenix fire technique at all, but another A-level fire style, ninjutsu, similar to the Phoenix fire technique. No, a normal A-level fire style doesn't seem to have such power, does it? This is almost catching up with the destructive power of S-rank ninjutsu. Amidst the explosion, Night God Ryosuke, who was standing there, suddenly fell to the ground, twitching all over his body and even foaming at the mouth. Sora has powerful ninjutsu, but if you don't know how to use it, it's useless. Aburame did not know when he appeared behind Night God Ryosuke. He looked down at Night God Ryosuke, who was twitching on the ground, with a slight smile on the corner of his mouth. Take the root. Be careful. At this time, on the other side, Hyuga, who cast 8 trigrams air palm to blow up the fireball, suddenly found something and shouted loudly. Pity. Hyuga was still one step too late. Just when Aburame took the root and thought he had succeeded, another Night God Ryosuke suddenly came out of the ground and slashed on his arm. Brush. Aburame took the root and instantly turned into a cloud of insects to escape. And the Night God Ryosuke did not pursue, but put away a drop of blood on the blade. Get the first copy. Yagami Ryosuke smiled. Chapter 72. Burst Rasengan. Growing Mushrooms Technique. Fourth more. After the worm cloud condensed and formed, Aburame looked down at a small wound on his arm, subconsciously pursed his lips, and then nanoscale phosphorus bad worms invisible to the naked eye clung to the wound, forming a layer of insect armor covered the wound. The wound is not big, basically nothing serious. But what baffles Aburame is, Yagami Ryosuke seems to be quite happy. It's very inexplicable. 8 trigrams. Empty palm, boom. A violent palm wind hit. Night God Ryosuke's body was instantly blasted into pieces. But what was broken all over the sky was just a large piece of sawdust. Hyuga turned around in an instant, and a picture of 8 trigrams appeared under his feet. There was a strong surge of chakra between his palms. With a waving of his palms, he blasted towards the Night God Ryosuke, who appeared behind him. 8 trigrams, 128 palms. Countless palm shadows instantly enveloped Night God Ryosuke's whole body. All possible dodging angles were blocked by the shadow of the palm, leaving him no room to dodge. Can't escape? Then don't hide. Leaf Hurricane. Leaf Great Whirlwind. Night God Ryosuke simply fights against Hyuga's 8 trigrams palms with physical skills. The opponent's palm shadow bombarded him. Except for revealing that the chakra in his body sealed his acupuncture points, it did not cause any other damage. 8 trigrams palms. Revolving Heaven. After hitting 128 palms, Hyuga switched to Revolving Heaven instantly for the second time, rotating to block the attack of Night God Ryosuke. Night God Ryosuke, you are finished. The chakra in your body has been sealed by me with 8 trigrams palms. Can you still mobilize chakra now? Hyuga said proudly for the second time. Sealed. Night God Ryosuke smiled disdainfully. Is this also called sealing? Next second, a chakra that was dozens of times stronger than before erupted from the body of Night God Ryosuke. Boom. Chakra, which is visible to the naked eye, bursts out from every pore of Night God Ryosuke's body, burning like a flame all over his body. Bang, the surrounding ground was crushed and cracked by this chakra coercion. Hyuga 31, who bears the brunt of the attack, was thrown directly for more than 10 meters in the middle, before turning over and landing, looking at the Night God Ryosuke in front of him with a horrified expression on his face. This chakra. No, how is this possible? In Hyuga's sight, the chakra in the Night God Ryosuke's body directly increased by about 100 times. If it is said that the chakra in the body of the Night God Ryosuke only surpassed part of the elite Chunin. So now the chakra in Ryosuke's body is 20 to 30 times more than the chakra in the body of a Kage-level powerhouse. Such a huge chakra. The first time Hyuga has seen it except for Tailed Beast and Jinchuriki. He has never seen a normal ninja, even the shadow of a village. Actually, Night God Ryosuke's current basic chakra has reached the level of ordinary Kage level, plus the 35 times bonus of the talent entry. Chakra is a lot more than Uzumaki Naruto, the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. Naruto's current chakra is 120 cards, but Ryosuke's chakra has reached about 350 calories. Such a huge chakra, even if it is just the coercion formed by a simple chakra explosion, is enough to scare people to death. At this time, It wasn't just Hyuga who was freaked out for the second time. Even the ninjas who took Aburame's roots turned pale with fright. This brat, what's going on? Why is he so much bigger than Nine-Tails Chakra? These rooted ninjas are completely incomprehensible. Why a normal ninja, Chakra Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, has more? This is completely unreasonable. Reasonable? For a hacker, what is reasonable? Said that he had never heard of this term. At this time, Ryosuke, the night god who broke out completely in chakra, also looked at the root ninjas in front of him with cold eyes. Ninja. Multiple shadow clone technique. Boom. A white smoke spread around, revealing more than a dozen shadow clone of Ryosuke, the night god, surrounding these people. Next, second wind style great breakthrough. Aburame, Tsugen, and others had question marks on their faces. Great breakthrough? You still want to kill our group of elite ninjas who are at least Jnin with a C-rank wind style? However, in the next second, Aburame took the root, and others knew that their thinking was completely wrong. Who said great breakthrough can't kill people? More than a dozen shadow clones cast great breakthrough at the same time, and a violent gale instantly ravaged the area, like a typhoon of magnitude 18 passing through. Aburame, Tsugen, and others were directly blown away by the strong wind. Defensive ninjutsu performed is completely useless. Even if Hyuga used Revolving Heaven again for the second time, this so-called absolute defense was instantly broken, and he was directly blasted, crushed, and blood spurted all over the sky in embarrassment. Night God Ryosuke also took the opportunity to collect the biological pheromones of each of them. Done. He put away these biological pheromones and then looked at the forest that had been great breakthrough. A large area has been cleared of trees. The ground is like a field that has been turned over, and those ninjas at the root are also lying on the ground dying. Only the two elite Jnin, Hyuga and Aburame, can barely stand. It's just gravel, not half as good as me. Yishun Ryosuke thinks that Madara's words are very suitable to describe the current situation. These root ninjas on the opposite side are indeed not half as good as him. He only made a slight move, and more than half of them were already lying down on the other side. The strength gap is too large. Even though Night God Ryosuke has exposed many of his inexperience in the battle, these still cannot smooth out the huge gap in strength between the two sides. And now, biopheromones have arrived. Night God Ryosuke also intends to end this battle. Give you a splendid funeral, Yagami Ryosuke said with a smile. Immediately, he stretched out his hand, and an orange-red bursting Rasengan condensed and formed in his palm. Burst Rasengan looks no bigger than a head, but the destructive power contained in it made the faces of Hyuga, Zhongji, and Aburame take the root on the opposite side suddenly change wildly. Run, without the slightest hesitation. The two directly chose to turn around and run away. Can't beat. Can't beat at all. At this moment, even Aburame, who admires Danzo so much in his heart, does not intend to continue this task. What is there to continue with a mission that is bound to fail? Come on, feel the gorgeous gift I gave you. Night God Ryosuke dodges into midair in an instant and throws the explosive Rasengan in his hand vigorously. Moment. A brilliant orange tail flashed in the sky, like a meteor falling to the ground. First, a dazzling light illuminated the entire forest. Even Yuzuki Shien, who was 5 or 6 kilometers away from here, could see a little sun rising over there. Next second, the exploding fireball began to swell as if devouring everything. It swelled to a size of 1,000 meters in diameter, and then the ball began to deform. Rumble. The violent shock wave then swept across the 4 directions, destroying everything along the way. Trees, rocks, and soil were instantly burned to ashes by the scorching heat, and then swept into the sky by shock waves. Far away, Maui Shin opened her mouth wide, looking at a huge mushroom rising over there in disbelief. She even forgot to keep running away. After 10 seconds, boom, a shock wave swept across the area where Yuzuki Shien was. The big tree was uprooted. Yuzuki Shien was tumbling directly in the air, and after a dozen laps, she was caught by a pair of powerful arms and then landed firmly on the emptied forest floor. Sister Shien, are you okay? Yagami Ryosuke put down Yuzuki Yugao and asked. Yuzuki Shien shook her head in a daze. Then he looked over there, and then at Ryosuke, the night god in front of him. That's what you did, she asked hesitantly. Yagami Ryosuke nodded with a smile. That's right, a ninjutsu I just perfected a while ago is a bit more powerful. Slightly bigger? You call that a little bit big? I was 5 or 6 kilometers away from it. And in the end, I was thrown into the sky. If your ninjutsu is used in a densely populated city, wouldn't it mean that the entire city would be razed to the ground on the spot? Ryosuke, are you really only 12 years old? Yuzuki Yugao looked at Yagami Ryosuke in front of her as if she was looking at some alien. Is this a ninjutsu that normal ninjas can use? Shouldn't ninjas be hand-to-hand combat, fighting against wisdom and tactics, and giving the enemy a one-hit kill in an unexpected way? When did ninjas start to engage in such large-scale terrorist attacks? Yuzuki Shien looked at the mess around her. It's hard to imagine that this kind of destructive power is only caused by a ninjutsu. Are you sure it's not a natural disaster? The tailed beast bomb of the tailed beast is nothing more than that, right? Even Yuzuki Shien felt that even the tailed beast bomb didn't have such terrifying destructive power. Yagami Ryosuke looked at Yuzuki Shien's expression of being so shocked that he doubted his life. He couldn't help laughing and said, well, the power of this ninjutsu is indeed a bit stronger, Sister Shien. Are you not scared? No, I'm already scared, Yuzuki Shien said dumbfoundedly. Ryosuke, no wonder you told me to stay away before. Now, I fully understand. You do not say? With this scope of destruction, as long as you get closer, people will disappear immediately. Yuzuki Yuyin can imagine at this moment that those ninjas at the root, including Hugatsuji, the Umbu branch leader, may not even be able to keep a piece of fingernail at this moment, right? In fact, it is true. The burst Rasengan that Ryosuke has further perfected can not only be thrown out for long-distance attacks, but also much more powerful than it was at the beginning. The fireball formed by its explosion is enough to engulf an area with a diameter of 1 kilometer. The internal temperature can reach tens of thousands of degrees Celsius. No matter how powerful a ninja is, as long as they are within this range, they will almost die. Unless you can drive up to 0.47. That's another matter. But it will definitely be extremely embarrassing, and even getting injured is normal. And for ninjas who don't know how to drive Gundam, faced with this level of ninjutsu, you must either escape far ahead of time, or you will know time and space ninjutsu, or just wait for death. At least it can save a little effort to escape. Anyway, I can't run away. This trick is Burst Rasengan, and Night God Ryosuke thinks it is more suitable even if it is called the technique of growing mushrooms. Look over there, a huge mushroom cloud that hasn't dissipated yet. Isn't it just planting a huge mushroom on the ground? There's nothing wrong with that. Sister Shien, about my ninjutsu, it's best not to tell anyone other than you and me. I'm afraid it will scare them. Wild Ryosuke said. Heard. Yuzuki Shien also looked at him with complicated eyes, then nodded. Ryosuke, I don't know why you want to hide your strength, but I promise you, I won't tell others what happened today. Hearing what Yuzuki Shien said seriously, Yagami Ryosuke also said, when the time is right, I will tell Sister Shien everything. You hope that sister will come time to not be intimidated. Hearing this, Yuzuki Shien laughed and said, I have already been frightened by you, but if you want to frighten me again, it will not be so easy. You do not say. Everything that happened today really shattered Yuzuki Shien's 3 views. First, the ninjas from a village came to ambush Ryosuke, even the captain of their second unit. This made Yuzuki Shien realize for the first time that there is more darkness in the village than she has ever seen before, or she had never really understood the darkness in the village before. An Umbu team leader would actually do such a thing. Yuzuki Shien couldn't help wondering whether it was the right decision to join Umbu. This is also one of the reasons why Yuzuki Shien promised Yishin Ryosuke to help him conceal his strength, because she can understand the current situation of Night God Ryosuke. If it were her, she would also choose to hide her true strength. Don't tell anyone. And Night God Ryosuke chose to tell her all this, which in itself is an expression of trust in her. This made Uzuki Shien quite happy, able to be trusted by Night God Ryosuke. Chapter 73. Spend the night with Shien in the town. Do you still have mixed bats here? Fifth change. What the hell is going on here? A group of Umbu ninjas stared in shock at the huge pit in front of them. The diameter of the huge crater is almost 1 kilometer, and the bottom is nearly 100 meters away from the ground. And everything in a large area around it was destroyed from a distance. The trees can only be seen from farther away. These Umbu ninjas are all scattered before, going in other directions with the ultimate goal of Umbu members. At this time, they were attracted by the huge explosion here and came to check the situation. As a result, after arriving here, what I saw was such a situation. Their 3 views were shattered on the spot. "Captain, is this caused by a meteorite?" asked an Umbu ninja. The captain standing in front shook his head, saying that he didn't know if it was a meteorite. After all, no meteorite was seen in the pit. Certainly, this does not rule out the possibility that someone has arrived here before them and took away the meteorite. Look around and see if there are any clues. The captain commanded. Immediately, several members of Umbu scattered in search of possible clues. Murata Town. This is a small town in the northeast of the Land of Fire, close to the Land of Iron. The town is not big, with a population of about 6 or 7,000 people. The most famous one is the Murata Hot Spring in the town. The name of Murata Town is also derived from this. After Yagami Ryosuke and Uzuki Shien left there, they did not return immediately to join other Umbu ninjas. Instead, they chose to continue going north and came to this Murata town. They planned to rest here for a night before heading back to the village tomorrow. As for excuses, Uzuki Shien had already thought about it on the way. She would say that she was hunted down by Cloud Shinobi ninjas along with Night God Ryosuke, and then fled to the vicinity of the Iron Kingdom before getting rid of the pursuers, and then rested for a night to make sure that the non-hidden ninjas did not appear nearby before returning. As for the situation on the battlefield, feel sorry, they don't know either. If it was in the past, Uzuki Shien would definitely not lie to Hokage. But now Uzuki Shien doesn't know whether she should insist on herself. What happened today really had a big impact on her heart. Yagami Ryosuke also saw that Uzuki Shien was not in a good mood. So after finding out that the most famous place in this Murata town is Murata Onsen, he took Uzuki Shien to the largest hotel in the town, Boss's Suite. Yagami Ryosuke took out the money and put it on the counter. The owner of the hotel is a woman in her 40s. After the other party took the money, he smiled and called a little girl to take them to the room with the key. Maiwa Shien followed along absent-mindedly along the way. It wasn't until she found out that Uzuki Shien came back to her senses. "Sister Shien, I heard that the hot springs in this town are quite famous. Let's go to a hot spring later, so as to relieve fatigue," Yagami Ryosuke said. Hearing this, Uzuki Shien also nodded. She is indeed a little tired. Soaking in a hot spring is not bad. "Guest, we have the most authentic Murata hot spring in our hotel. You will fall in love with our Murata hot spring in Murata town as long as you soak it once." The little girl leading the way smiled and said to the two of them, "Okay, then we'll go experience your hot spring later." As Yagami Ryosuke said, he took out 500 taels and handed it to the little girl. "Guests, we don't have a rule for tipping." The little girl quickly waved her hand and refused. "It's okay. You can take it, wait for a while, and take us to your hot spring later," Yagami Ryosuke said. "Put the money in the little girl's hands." Hearing this, the little girl hesitated for a while, then put the money into her pocket with a smile. "Guests, I'll be waiting for you behind the door," the little girl said, turned and left the room. "Ryosuke, did you come to this kind of place often before? How do you feel that you are very skilled?" Uzuki Yugao looked at Yagami Ryosuke with a suspicious expression. "No way. Miss Shien, you're overthinking. I've never been out of the village before, so I don't need to stay in a hotel in the village. Yagami Ryosuke said. But he actually went to the hot spring in Konoha several times. The main reason is that it is very comfortable to soak in a hot spring after you are tired from practicing. But all he wanted were serious hot springs. I have never been to such a dishonest place. Sister Shien, there are 2 rooms in this suite. Which one do you want to sleep in tonight? Eyes Ryosuke changed the subject and asked. Just the one on the left. Yuzuki Shien chose one at random. Anyway, the rooms are almost the same, and there is nothing to dance about. A few minutes later, Yagami and Ryosuke followed the little girl to the hot spring area of the hotel. Men's bath, ladies' bath, mixed bath, etc. Does this hotel have mixed baths? Night god Ryosuke stared at those 2 words for a few more seconds. Then Yuzuki Shien, who was beside him, seemed to notice what he was looking at and couldn't help laughing. Is Ryosuke going to try mixed bathing? Yuzuki Shien deliberately teased him and asked, Sister Shien, do you want to go together? Yagami Ryosuke asked. Forget it. I like to take a bath alone. Yuzuki Shien shook her head. But Ryosuke, you can try it. Maybe you can meet a beautiful young lady. Forget it. I'd better go to the men's bath. Night god Ryosuke thought about it, but gave up the idea of going to the mixed bath to gain insights. The main reason is that he had heard a rumor before that it was a woman who would go to mixed baths, either an elderly aunt or a group of old women. He didn't want to be scared and run out. How embarrassing. So, let's take a men's bath, honestly. Oh, that's such a pity, Yuzuki Shien said with a smile on purpose. Yagami Ryosuke couldn't see that Yuzuki Shien was teasing him on purpose, so he rolled his eyes and walked directly into the door of the men's bath with his laurel seed. I chose a hot spring pool without people, and Yagami Ryosuke soaked in the hot spring comfortably, feeling like the pores of his body were opened. So comfortable. He casually covered his face with a wet towel, then lay on the edge, resting with his eyes closed. After a while, Yagami Ryosuke took off the towel from his face and wiped his face again. Seeing no one around, he took out a drop of blood from the system's biopheromone warehouse. This drop of blood is the root blood of Aburame. System, transform this drop of blood on my hand. Night god Ryosuke said silently in his heart. Next second, the drop of blood on his hand disappeared instantly. Then a system prompt sounded in my mind. Ding. Converted successfully. Congratulations to host for getting the talent entry. Phosphorus bug body blue. Phosphorus bug body. Blue, there are a lot of poisonous phosphorus bugs in your body. These cute little bugs will obey your orders. Maybe you could try to accept the reality that your body is covered with bugs. Insect affinity plus 100%. Attached. Phosphorus bad, insect boarding. Hiss. Those who play with bugs are ruthless people. Night god Ryosuke looked at the contents of this talent entry and thought. The ninjas of the Aburame family can bear a lot of bugs living in their bodies. Anyway, if it were Night god Ryosuke, he would not be able to accept the fact that he was covered in bugs all over his body. So, there's nothing to say about this talent entry. Just break it down directly. Originally, Ryosuke, the night god, came here to break down the experience points of the entries. The blue talent entry can get 100 experience points after decomposition, which is 10 times that of the green talent entry. Unfortunately, even if these experience points are added up and invested in a golden talent entry, it is far from enough to upgrade it. Night god Ryosuke opened the character panel and glanced at a golden talent entry that had been hanging up. In more than 2 years, the experience value of these 3 golden talent entries has already exceeded 10,000 points. But it's still 9/10 short of the 100,000 points needed to upgrade. At this rate, it will take another 20 years to upgrade. This is too long. But since the system had the first update, Night god Ryosuke guessed that there should be a second update. The first update added the hang-up function of this entry. So what about the second update? Will it add any new functions? Or increase the efficiency of the original functions? For example, increase the hang-up income from 10 points a day to 100 points a day. Then it is easy to upgrade the golden talent entry. I don't know what the conditions for the next system update will be. Night god Ryosuke guessed that it might have something to do with the number of equipment entries. The The previous update was because of this, but before the night, God Ryosuke tried to equip a lot of white and green entries. It turned out to be of no use. The system does not prompt to update. Possible, this also has something to do with the entry level of the equipment. Perhaps those below purple are not counted by the system. If that's the case, Knight God Ryosuke will have to equip a few more purple talent entries in the future. It doesn't matter whether it's useful or not, as long as it doesn't disgust me. There are no side effects either. You can stay and equip first. After soaking in the hot spring, it was completely dark outside. Yagami Ryosuke and Yuzuki Shien found a restaurant in the small town for dinner, and then went back to the hotel to rest. Late at night, in the room, Yagami Ryosuke was having trouble sleeping. He remembered that the little girl who led the way had said that the suite was also equipped with a small hot spring pool. Except that it is a little smaller, it is no different from the hot spring I used to soak in before. It is the middle Murata hot spring. So Yagami Ryosuke, who couldn't sleep, simply got up, took a bathrobe, and went directly to the hot spring. Open the bathroom door. There's indeed a small hot spring here. The hot spring is a small circular hot spring with a diameter of more than 2 meters. Yagami Ryosuke took off his clothes and stepped into the water, allowing the hot spring to cover his whole body. I wonder if Sister Shien is asleep? Night God Ryosuke thought suddenly. The last time he stayed at Yui Shien's house, Yui Shien suffered from insomnia that night. I wonder if she will suffer from insomnia again if she stays in this hotel tonight. But this night, it is impossible for Yagami Ryosuke to knock on Yuzuki Shien's door and ask her if she is asleep, in case she's already asleep, but he waked her up instead. That wake-up gas. Scary to think about. With his face covered in a towel, Yagami Ryosuke rested in the hot spring with his eyes closed. I don't know how long it has passed. Just when he was a little drowsy and about to fall asleep, he suddenly heard the sliding door open. Yagami Ryosuke was startled and hurriedly took the towel off his face and moved towards the door. At the door, Yuzuki Yugao, who was wearing a pink bathrobe, was standing there with a small frame, looking at Ryosuke, who was soaking in the water, in surprise. Ryosuke, are you still awake? From Zhao. Sister Shien, are you suffering from insomnia again? The two asked each other almost at the same time, then fell into a moment of silence. Well, why don't I let you? Night God Ryosuke asked. Heard. Yuzuki Shien, who was standing at the door, hesitated for a moment, then turned and closed the sliding door of the bathroom. It's okay, let's go clubbing together. Yuzuki Shien turned around with a slightly red face and said, I wonder if it was smoked by the heat of the hot spring? Probably. Turn your head away. Yuzuki Yugao said to Yagami Ryosuke. Oh. Yagami Ryosuke froze for a moment, then turned his head to the side in embarrassment. After a while, there was a sound of water entering. Okay. Yagami Ryosuke, who heard the voice, turned his head back and saw that Yuzuki Yugao had walked into the hot spring pool. Sister Shien, are you unable to sleep again? Yagami Ryosuke felt that if he didn't speak at this moment, the atmosphere would be very awkward, so he took the initiative to find a topic to talk about. Yeah, maybe too many things happened during the day, so I can't sleep. Yuzuki Shien nodded and said, when she was in the room before, when she closed her eyes, she would remember what happened during the day, so that she couldn't sleep at all. Later, distraught, she remembered that the little girl leading the way had said that there was also a small hot spring in the room, so she thought of coming over to take a dip in the hot spring to relax. Maybe she would be able to sleep well. It turned out that night, God Ryosuke had the same idea. It's no coincidence. Chapter 74, A Wonderful Night. Wind chimes in the morning mist. 6 more. Soaking in hot springs is good, but not for too long. Otherwise, the skin will wrinkle and the head will feel dizzy. Walking will feel like the world is spinning. Fortunately, Yagami Ryosuke and Yuzuki Shien are both ninjas with better physique than ordinary people. It's okay to soak for a while. The two soaked until after 2 o'clock in the middle of the night, when Yuzuki Shien said that she was a little sleepy and went to bed first. And Yagami Ryosuke also soaked for a while and went to the room to rest. Nothing to say all night. The next day, Yuzuki Shien didn't wake up until 8:30 in the morning. As soon as she came out of the room, she saw that Yagami Ryosuke was already drinking tea in the yard. You wake up so early. Yuzuki Shien said, "Aren't you sleepy today?" Yagami Ryosuke shook his head with a smile and said, "When I was at home, I didn't sleep much. I used to feel sleepy, but now I don't. After a little sleep for 3 or 4 hours, I feel refreshed. If only I could be like you. I used to be busy until midnight when I had tasks before I could rest, and then I had to get up early the next day. I felt like I didn't get enough sleep every time." As Yuzuki Shien said, she turned and went to the bathroom to wash up. After she finished washing and came out, Yagami Ryosuke had asked the hotel to bring her breakfast. "Let's eat. We will go back after eating," Yagami Ryosuke said. Yuzuki Shien nodded, pulled out the chair, and sat down. After 9 a.m., Yagami Ryosuke went to the front desk to check out the room. "Is the hot spring in our hotel good?" The proprietress took the key with a smile and asked. "Heard." Yagami Ryosuke and Yuzuki Shien couldn't help but think about what happened last night. "Great. Nothing to say." Yagami Ryosuke is quite natural, and he also praised the hotel's hot spring, by the way. But Yuzuki Shien, who was standing behind her, blushed a little and lowered her head subconsciously. When the two came out of the hotel, Yagami Ryosuke saw Yuzuki Shien looking at the ground all the time, only to realize that she was blushing a little. "Sister Shien, you are blushing," Yagami Ryosuke said. Yuzuki Shien. People are hard to tear apart. Hey. Out of anger, Yuzuki Shien Wolf 127 stomped on the back of Yagami Ryosuke's foot. And Night God Ryosuke also pretended to be in pain. "Does it really hurt?" Yuzuki Shien thought that she had used too much strength and really stepped on Ryosuke, the night god. But soon, she just remembered that the brat in front of her was a guy whose flesh/body could directly resist belevel ninjutsu. It's no wonder that it hurts if you just step on the back of your foot. Knowing that she was cheated again, Yuzuki Shien glared at Yagami Ryosuke angrily. "Okay, Sister Shien, I'm joking with you." Yagami Ryosuke scratched his head with a smile and said, "Don't make such a joke next time." Yuzuki Shien said angrily. Yishin Ryosuke said that he would not do it next time, and then looked at the angry Yuzuki Shien and suddenly said, "Sister Shien, you look cute when you are angry." "Why Yuzuki Shien? You still say." She raised her hand to hit him, but Yagami Ryosuke hurried to the front. "Don't run. Let me hit you a few times." Yuzuki Shien chased after them, and the two quickly ran out of the town. Outside the town is a dense forest. There are still wisps of morning fog floating in the forest. The two who chased and ran out of the town stopped suddenly and heard the sound of wind chimes in their ears. Have Yuzuki Shien looked towards the distance of the road. In the morning mist, two tall figures were slowly walking towards this side. Because of the influence of the fog, Yuzuki Shien could also see clearly the appearance of the person coming. But the faint murderous aura in the air made Yuzuki Shien couldn't help showing a solemn expression. "It's them." Night God Ryosuke then opened the white eyes and Sharingan. Although his eyes were still in normal condition, he could already see clearly the appearance of the person coming from a distance through the wisps of morning fog. A windbreaker with red clouds on a black background, wearing a bamboo hat, with wind chimes hanging on both sides of the hat. The crisp wind chimes came from there. "Huh, I didn't expect to meet Konoha's ninja here. Wait till you get close." The two members of the Akatsuki organization also discovered the night god Ryosuke and Yuzuki Shien standing in front. He glanced at the Konoha forehead protectors on the two of them, and then DB, white-haired and green-eyed Kakazu, who was wearing the Taki Ninja Village Rebel forehead protector, also took out a booklet from his sleeve. Open the booklet and look at it page by page. Finally, his eyes stopped on one of the pages. Yuzuki Shien, Konoha Special Jinin, offering a reward of 8 million taels. Kakazu read out the contents of the pamphlet. "No way, Kaku." Hiding on the side muttered dissatisfiedly. "You don't even want to sell this kind of reward of 8 million, do you? Don't waste time. I'm full." "Isn't 8 million money?" Kakuzu gave Haydn a cold look. "Let alone 8 million. Even if it is 800,000, he will not let it go. Anyway, it's a matter of convenience. Why not do it? This 8 million is so easy to earn. Is it possible that you still feel disgusted? Kakuzu is not the kind of person who would dislike low money. No matter how much money there is, as long as there is money to be made, he is willing to do it. I really convinced you. I won't help you. Haydn folded his hands and said impatiently, "You don't need to do anything. I can handle it myself. Just give me 2 minutes." Kakuzu glanced at him lightly. It was just a special jnin of Konoha. Not even a formal jnin. It could be done easily in a few minutes. It didn't take much time at all. Cut. What a hassle. Haydn curled his lips. Sister Shien, do you still have a reward? Yagami Ryosuke looked at Yuzuki Yuyin with some surprise. Generally speaking, those who can hang a reward on the black market are not ordinary ninjas. Ordinary ninjas would not let people spend money to put a bounty on their heads. Even Ryosuke, the night god, didn't expect that there would be a reward on the black market for Junin's Yuzuki Shien. Although 8 million is not much. But that is also the reward for 2 or 3 S-level missions. I don't know either. Mayu Shien shook her head. She had never heard of the news that she was offered a reward on the black market. But 8 million taels? My head is only worth 8 million taels? Yuzuki Shien was a little angry, feeling underestimated. As for worrying about the 2 ninjas on the opposite side, feel sorry. Since seeing the strength of Ryosuke yesterday, Yuzuki Shien didn't feel worried or nervous at all at the moment. She even felt a little unlucky for the 2 traitors on the opposite side. He actually met the 2 of them and planned to attack them. Isn't this suicidal? Boy, you're not on Lousie's roster. If you don't want to die, go away. Don't get in the way of Lousy making money. Kakuzu said to Night God Ryosuke. Uncle Kakuzu has always looked down on this kind of ninja who doesn't offer a reward. A piece of junk that doesn't even have a bounty on it. Unworthy to die at the hands of his master, Kakuzu. Kakuzu, hurry up. Haydn urged. Shut up. Talk again, and I will kill you together. Kakuzu turned his head and said viciously. Otherwise, these guys from the Shao organization are all ruthless people. They became so ruthless that they even dared to kill their own companions. But that's nothing. After all, there are werewolves who even slash the tail beast bomb. What's the point of killing a few companions? Ryosuke, why don't we try? Yuzuki Shien put one hand on her ninja knife, wanting to see if this guy in front of him is as powerful as he said. It's just pure lip service. No, Sister Shien, these 2 are not simple roles. Let me do it. Yagami Ryosuke stops Yuzuki Yugao. Yuzuki Shien didn't know the 2 people in front of him, but how could Yagami Ryosuke not know him? Akatsuki's undead duo. One Haydn, one Kaku. The former has an immortal body, and his physical skills are not bad, which is at the level of Junin. But the key is that the immortal body is very troublesome, and he can use a spell to kill CC with blood. If you don't know his information, if you accidentally get your own blood, you will be at his mercy. And the other Kakuzu far surpasses Haydn in terms of hard power. Haydn mainly relies on immortality and weird spells. But as long as you figure out his information, it is not difficult to fight. But Kakuzu is different. This guy is an old monster who has lived for more than 90 years. Although he looks young, he is actually a grandpa. It is said that this guy was once ordered to assassinate first Hokage, Senju Hashirama. But because of fear, he just threw a shuriken from a distance and ran away. Therefore, it is nicknamed Kakuzu, who threw a shuriken 800 miles away. But don't look at Kakuzu facing Senju Hashirama, so scared that he didn't even dare to make a move and ran away. But in fact, they are also genuine Kaga-level powerhouses. The strength of a body, even in the Kaga level, is also a high-end level. Hard to deal with. In particular, he has 5 hearts, and only by completely destroying these 5 hearts can he be killed. Otherwise, it is impossible to kill him in other ways. People who don't know this information will never find his 5 hearts wearing a mask and think it's just some kind of special secret technique. Night God Ryosuke also didn't expect that he would meet the undead duo here. And Kakuzu even had his eye on Yuzuki Shien. The reason turned out to be because of the reward of 8 million taels. Ryosuke, do you know them? Yuzuki Shien heard Yagami Ryosuke's words and asked him in surprise. Yishan Ryosuke nodded and said, I heard, Sister Shien, You back up and protect yourself. Leave these two guys to me. I just ate too much in the morning. Let's fight to digest food. Then be careful yourself. I'll watch for you. Yuzuki Shien said. It also retreated to the vicinity of the gate of the town. At this time, on the opposite side, Kakuzu looked up and down at night god Ryosuke. It seems that your strength is stronger than this female ninja, but you really don't think about leaving here anymore. I really don't want to be with a ninja like you who doesn't even have a reward. Kakuzu also tried to persuade Knight god Ryosuke to leave. For him, following a master ninja who doesn't offer a reward is tantamount to wasting time to make money. And wasting time to make money is one of the most shameful things for Kakuzu, second only to spending money. Needless to say, if you don't defeat me today, I won't be able to let you get close to Shien's sisters. Yagami Ryosuke said, and he slowly pulled out his ninja sword. His ninjutsu is too powerful. Even if it is a C-level ninjutsu, in his hands, it can display the power close to that of an S-level ninjutsu. And Night God Ryosuke also focused on the biological pheromones on the undead duo. If it was them, it should be able to transform into 2 talent entries that are at least purple, right? Undead duo, don't let me down. Yagami Ryosuke murmured to himself. Next second, his figure disappeared in a swipe. On the opposite side, Kakuzu showed a contemptuous smile, his hands under the sleeves quickly sealed, and in an instant, 2 hideous masked monsters emerged from his body. Wind-style crush. Boom. A gust of wind blasts the incoming Night God Ryosuke. However, the Night God Ryosuke rushed up directly with Wind-style, wearing the masked monster, completely ignoring Wind-style's attack. Oh, I have some skills. Kakuzu looked at the Night God Ryosuke, who rushed up with Wind-style in surprise, a little surprised at the opponent's strength. After all, Night God Ryosuke looks too immature. You could tell at a glance that you are still young. So at the beginning, neither Kakuzu nor Haiden took Night God Ryosuke seriously. But the truth is that this kid's strength is quite good. That's right. In Kakuzu's heart, the strength shown by Night God Ryosuke at this moment is just good. He couldn't remember how many ninjas like this he had killed in his life. A pile of human heads can form a hill. Kakuzu was just a little surprised, but didn't take it too seriously. Ninja. Dance of the Crescent Moon. Yagami Ryosuke performed this move with the swordsmanship he learned from Yuzuki Yugao. As soon as the Dance of the 3 Suns and the Moon was performed, 3 Night Gods Ryosuke appeared in the midair and surrounded Kakuzu with 2 in front and 1 behind. Under the bonus of 400% of the power of swordsmanship, Night God Ryosuke's sword is fast and accurate. Before even Kakuzu had time to dodge, the Night God Ryosuke killed this wind, a tribute masked monster, in an instant. Chapter 75. Beat Kakuzu. Embarrass Haiden. Don't break the defense. 7th more. At the same time, Night God Ryosuke also chopped off one of Kakuzu's arms. The arm flew out with blood. In an instant, 3 other masked monsters emerged from Kakuzu's body, releasing several ninjutsu to temporarily force Night God Ryosuke back. Immediately, Kakuzu looked at the blown wind attribute mask monster with a dark face and looked at the Night God Ryosuke, no longer the previous look of contempt. Instead, it carried a strong, killing intent. This brat, he dared to destroy his own heart. Unforgivable. Hey, Kakuzu, can you do it? Haiden, who was standing on a tree, saw that Kakuzu's heart was blown by a face-to-face and couldn't help but shouted suspiciously. Shut up. Kakuzu turned to look at him angrily. He was really angry this time. One of his 5 hearts was easily blown out by this brat in front of him. The essential. This kid is still that kind of unknown little person. I haven't heard of the other party at all. If it were those famous ninjas in the ninja world, then Kakuzu would recognize it. After all, if you lose 1 or 2 hearts, you can't die. As long as you win in the end, who can say anything about him? But now being hurt by such a small character, Kakuzu really can't accept it. He felt his dignity was insulted. Especially, the idiot Haiden even laughed at him. This makes Kakuzu even more unbearable. Damn kid, you managed to PS me off. Kakuzu looked at Yagami Ryosuke opposite with murderous eyes, and at this moment, he even ignored Yuzuki Shien, who was worth 8 million taels over there. He just wanted to kill this brat so that he could maintain his composure. Uncle, you don't look very good. It turns out that you're just a good talker. Night God Ryosuke laughed and mocked. This made Kakuzu even more furious. Sharp-toothed brat, go to hell. Kakuzu, who was dominated by anger, directly controlled his 3 masked monsters to kill the Night God Ryosuke. He was careless before. I misestimated the strength of this brat. But this time, he won't be so careless again. As long as you fight hard, the effect of this kind of Jnin strength is not the same as cutting melons and vegetables. Fire style. Head hard. From the mouth of a masked monster, a large piece of flame like half of the sea water was ejected. The moment the flames hit the ground, they spread across a large area, covering all of Night God Ryosuke's escape routes. Lightning Stylep Pseudo-Dark. Another masked monster also opened its mouth and sprayed out a thunderbolt, shooting directly at the Night God Ryosuke in the center of a sea of flames. The last masked monster didn't make a move, because the attribute of this masked monster is water. Right now, the surrounding area has been covered by a sea of flames, so if you use water-style ninjutsu at this time, you are not creating obstacles for yourself. Compared to ninjutsu? Cut. Will I be afraid of you? Night God Ryosuke sneered, completely ignoring the raging sea of flames. His hands formed seals instantly, and then spit out a huge amount of water from his mouth, rushing towards the sea of flames in front of him like a cataract. Water style. Water chaos. The sea-level water-style ninja, released by Night God Ryosuke, is as powerful as the S-level. In the current waterless environment, it can create a massive flow of water, which is even bigger than the big waterfall. Kakuzu on the opposite side was stunned. God, what is this water chaos? Do you think I can't make waves? Boom. The monstrous torrent smashed everything in its path. Kakuzu was so frightened that he jumped up and jumped into the air, avoiding the massive water flow. Below, the whole forest was almost submerged by the flood. The big trees were washed down by the current, floating on the water and washed away with the rushing water. Haiden, who was standing on a tree to watch the fun before, quickly imitated Kakuzu and jumped up to dodge, then turned over and landed on a piece of wood floating on the water. Wow, this water style is so scary. Haiden bluffed. There is also a water style master within their organization. But even Hoshigaki Kisame couldn't make a mere water turbulence burst out with such terrifying power. He said, I thought it was a big explosion. Slap. Kakuzu falls from the sky, his feet on the turbulent water, and the excellent control of Chakra keeps him from falling into the water. What kind of monster is this kid? At this moment, Kakuzu couldn't help but doubt his life. He swore, even second Hokage, Senju Tobarama, who claims to be more like Mizukage than Mizukage, can't use a sea-level water style on this scale. Not to mention the consumption of chakra. The key is that sea-level ninjutsu has not supported such a large chakra output since its birth. Otherwise, everyone should learn sea-level ninjutsu. It's easy to learn, unlike those A-level or even S-level ninjutsu, which require extraordinary talent to learn at every turn. Stay out of the way, awesome. Yagami Ryosuke clapped his hands in praise. Kakuzu Haiden, see no. Why is this kid talking so annoyingly? Is he mocking us? He's laughing at us, right? Shwa. Kakuzu, let me come if you can't. Haiden picked up his scythe angrily and waved it in the air, looking angry. Go away. He's mine. Kakuzu let out a roar, stepping on the water quickly with both feet. He rushed to the Night God Ryosuke in front of him. Compared with ninjutsu, he found that he seemed to be no match for this brat. The opponent's chakra is amazing. The power of the ninjutsu used is also amazing. If he continued to fight at a wider distance, the loser would most likely be himself. So Kakuzu immediately changed his fighting strategy. Earth style. Earth spear. Kakuzu still has an earth-type heart in his body. At this time, he used earth-style ninjutsu to strengthen his defense and attack, and his 2 arms instantly became pitch black, as if there was some hard substance covering them. The other side, Yagami Ryosuke, just copied Kakuzu's fire-style head pain with Sharingan. Seeing Kakuzu rushing up at this time, he cast another earth style that he hadn't learned before and quickly copied it again. Although Night, God Ryosuke's chakra attribute is fire, water, wind, does not have soil properties, but that doesn't mean he can't learn earth attribute ninjutsu. It's just that, whether it is learning or using, it will get twice the result with half the effort. Certainly, ninjas can develop additional chakra attributes in a later stage. Even a ninja who originally only had a single attribute can acquire multiple chakra attributes. However, Ryosuke has not yet practiced the shape change and nature transformation of the soil attribute, so the copied earth style can only exert almost 1/3 of the main effect. Earth style. Earth spear. Night, God Ryosuke instantly cast the copied earth style ninjutsu and also hardened his arms. A pitch-black earth attribute substance covered his two arms. Night God Ryosuke laughed and punched Kakuzu. Boom! The fists of the two collided instantly in mid-air, and Kakuzu, who was on the opposite side, watched in disbelief that he was blown apart and turned into countless fragments of his right hand, and watched Ryosuke's hand pierce through his own chest, exploded the earth attribute heart in his body. FK. Kakuzu fell to the ground with a thud, pretending to be dead. But I couldn't understand in my heart, why was I easily blown away by the Night, God Ryosuke, despite the same ninjutsu? Did I use a fake earth style? Kakuzu. Seeing Kakuzu rushing to the street, hiding behind was also taken aback. He even forgot that Kakuzu had 5 hearts and rushed forward with his scythe. Little devil die. Haiden jumped high and slashed at Night, God Ryosuke. And Night, God Ryosuke, just raised his head to look at him, then raised his hand and grabbed the sickle that Haiden had chopped down. Clang! The sickle struck the arm of Night, God Ryosuke. It didn't break the defense. Haiden stared at the scene with wide eyes, instantly embarrassed. Don't break the defense. This is how to do. If he can't break the defense, he won't get the blood of Ryosuke, the Night God, and he can't cast the spell without blood. If you don't rely on death and blood, Haiden's combat power is only equivalent to that of Jinin. How to spell. That's it. Night, God Ryosuke, also wanted to try to see if Haiden's attack could break his own defense. Although he was confident that Haiden couldn't do it, he still didn't remove the spear ninjutsu on his arm out of the principle of keeping one hand. Asking for flowers. At this time, Haiden's knife really failed to break through the Night, God Ryosuke's defense. Even the layer of black substance on his arm couldn't be broken. The attack is completely useless. Let's go. Night God Ryosuke grabbed Haiden's scythe in his backhand and pulled him over. Boom! The air burst instantly. Night God Ryosuke shattered Haiden's chest with one punch, sending his body flying heavily. Blood spilled all over the sky. Yagami Ryosuke caught one of the drops and put it away. This time, the biological pheromones of the undead duo are all in hand. It just so happens that today's conversions haven't been used yet. After killing these two guys, you could try to convert the talent entry of one of them to see how it works. Ryosuke. Behind him, Yuzuki Yugao suddenly yelled the name of Yagami Ryosuke. He looked back. It was found that Kakuzu, who was still pretending to be dead just now, had disappeared. There was only a big pool of blood left on the ground. Yagami Ryosuke frowned, realized that Kakuzu should be rescued by Akatsuki. Oh, and Haiden. Night God Ryosuke reacted instantly and immediately rushed towards Haiden. He's faster than most Kaga-level powerhouses. In just a split second, he rushed to Haiden, who had a huge hole in his chest. At this time, a pair of black and white hands emerged from the ground. The ground rippled like a circle of water. Seeing that Haiden was about to be taken away, Yagami Ryosuke kicked him out instantly. Boom! A deep pit appeared in the ground. Night God Ryosuke fell to the side, frowning. He's also not sure if Haiden died with his last kick, but he did see most of Haiden's body blasted in a blood the scene of fog. But it is also possible that part of it was taken away by Ju. But if there is only a small part of the body left, can Haiden, the immortal body, keep him alive? Or is there any point in living like this? Standing in place, Yagami Ryosuke sensed the surrounding environment, even looked with the clairvoyant eye of the white eye. Also did not find any traces of the third chakra, besides himself and Yuzuki Shien. It runs really fast. Yagami Ryosuke shook his head, then turned back to Yuzuki Shien. Ryosuke, a weird guy with a pitcher-like growth, just took that person's body. Seeing Yagami Ryosuke approaching, Yuzuki Shien hurriedly told him what she had just seen. That guy is not dead yet. He was rescued by his companion. Yagami Ryosuke said, it's not dead yet. Yuzuki Shien was shocked. The whole chest was smashed, and the heart was gone. Still alive? What monsters are these? Forget it. Just run away. It doesn't matter anyway. Yagami Ryosuke shook his head, then looked at the mess around him, and called Yuzuki Shien to leave here together. It was a long time after they all left. The people in Murata Town had just plucked up the courage to walk out of the town. Looking at the forest in front of them that seemed to have been ravaged by floods, they remained silent for a long time. In a cave, Kakuzu, who lost 2 hearts, and Haiden's last remaining head emerged from the ground. It's almost safe to get here. Ju looked at Kakuzu, then handed him the head of Haiden in his hands. This time you're lucky. I happen to be nearby. Otherwise, you two will be finished. Ju was not polite at all, but Kakuzu was remembering the battle just now with a dark face and didn't listen to what he said at all. On the contrary, although Haiden only had 1 head left, he still yelled, saying that he wanted to seek revenge from the other party and retrieve his own weapon. Stop looking for that Konoha shinobi. You can't beat him. He glanced at the bluffing Haiden. Then his body slowly merged into the ground and disappeared without a trace. Chapter 76. Transform Haiden's talent entry. Immortal? First update after he left. Haiden was still clamoring to take revenge and get back his place. Kakuzu, who was in a bad mood, became even worse when Haiden yelled at him over and over again. Shut up. If you dare to say another word, I will leave you here right now. Apparently, the passerby's threat had worked. After all, Haiden only has 1 head left at the moment. If this was left here by Kakuzu, wouldn't he be left in this cave for the rest of his life? The key is, Haiden is theoretically immortal. In other words, there's a high probability that he will not die of old age. Therefore, he may be hundreds or even thousands of years from now, and he will still be alone in this cave with his head alone. Even if it is a direct mental breakdown, seeing Haiden, the BD, finally quieted down, Kakuzu angrily led him out of the cave. Next, he had to make up for the 2 hearts he had lost. As for Haiden's body, then talk about it later. Anyway, having 1 head left doesn't affect his eating and sleeping, and it just fell out when you ate it. Wouldn't that be better? Without a stomach, will you never be full? After 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Yagami Ryosuke and Yuzuki Yugao rested in the woods and had a simple lunch by the way. After lunch, Yuzuki Shien took out a map to confirm their current location. According to their current speed, they can return to the village before dark. I just don't know if the other Umbu ninjas of the second team have returned to the village. Also, 747 means, are they still on mission? Anyway, the 2 of them didn't meet other Umbu members on the way back. So there's a high probability that they have already returned. After all, this so-called intelligence recovery mission was probably initiated by Danzo himself. It might be possible that no important information was lost at all. During the break, Night God Ryosuke took out 2 drops of blood collected from the undead duo. After thinking about it, he took back the drop of Kakuzu's blood. Although Kakuzu is stronger than Haiden, but according to Night God Ryosuke's past experience, only by collecting special ninjas like Haiden can they transform into better talent entries. As for Kakuzu, it is very likely that some spoof talent entries will be transformed, like the man who defeated Senju Hashirama, or talent entries like the man who threw a shuriken 800 miles away. In contrast, Night God Ryosuke thinks that if it is Haiden, it is more likely that he will transform into corresponding talent entries, according to his characteristic of immortality. After all, when it comes to immortality in the world of Hokage, the first thing that comes to mind is Haiden. Kakuzu is all secondary. After all, Kakuzu can be killed by bursting 5 hearts. But what about Haiden? You cut him into pieces, he can't die. That's an exaggeration. Knight God Ryosuke has always felt that Haiden's immortality is the most buggy ability in the entire Hokage world. Even if he was killed by Shikamaru and the others in the later stage, he was only blown to pieces. If someone helps him to stitch him up, he can continue to live. It's outrageous. If Knight God Ryosuke can also get something like this immortal body, then combine it with his super recovery ability, isn't it incomprehensible? Haiden also needs Kakuzu to help him stitch his wounds and things like that. But Knight God Ryosuke can handle everything by himself. Become a real, unkillable monster? System, melt this drop of blood on my hand. Yagami Ryosuke communicates with the system in his mind. Immediately, the drop of blood on his hand disappeared in an instant. At the same time, a prompt also sounded in his mind. Ding! Converted successfully. Congratulations to host for getting the talent entry. Immortal body, purple. Hearing this prompt, Knight God Ryosuke couldn't help but his eyes brightened. Immortal. Sure enough, as he guessed, the talent entry transformed from Haiden is related to immortality. Immortal body. Purple, you are an undead monster that gods hate and ghosts hate. Countless people have tried to take your life, but they all ended in failure. Recovery power plus 500%. With ability, immortality, purple. It even increases resilience. Knight God Ryosuke looked at the attributes of the talent entry, immortal body, in surprise. Apart from the expected ability of immortality, I didn't expect that the only numerical attribute that increased was the recovery ability. So, wouldn't the recovery ability of Knight God Ryosuke become more terrifying? The original primary sage body plus 20 times the recovery bonus has already made Knight God Ryosuke's physical recovery ability comparable to Naruto's Nine Tails Jinchuriki. And now, added another 500% recovery. Is this going to make Knight God Ryosuke really an immortal monster? As for the attached ability of immortality, after equipping this talent entry, Knight God Ryosuke checked it out. It was found that the effect of this ability increases with the level of the talent entry, immortal body. Now this talent entry is purple level, so the immortality obtained by Knight God Ryosuke is also purple level. There is no vital point in the body. Even if his heart is blown, he can still live well. And with his amazing resilience, he can grow a heart again. But there is a weakness, is his brain. As long as the damage to the brain exceeds 50%, his immortal body cannot ensure that he will not die. Therefore, from now on, the only thing Ryosuke needs to protect is his own brain. As long as the brain is okay, everything else doesn't matter. Certainly, as a man, the injury in some places may cause a certain psychological shadow, so it is better to avoid it if it can be avoided. But if the talent entry immortal body is upgraded to the gold level, correspondingly, Knight God Ryosuke's immortality ability will also be improved. At that time, the brain will no longer be his weakness. In other words, even 99% of the damage can be recovered, as long as there is a little bit of loyalty left. But if it is completely blown into powder, it probably won't work either. Of course, this is all Yishin Ryosuke's own guess at the moment. Whether this is the case after the upgrade, we will have to wait and see, but I guess it should be close to 10. Before dark, Yagami Ryosuke and Yuzuki Yugao finally returned to the village. Before entering the village, the two put on Umbu's mask again, then walked straight into the gate of the village openly and above board, and went straight to the Hokage building. After all, there was an accident in the middle of the mission. When I come back this time, I must report the situation to Sarutobi Hiruzen, who is Hokage, as soon as possible.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.